Sup, my fellas. Don't forget to leave feedback, and enjoy the story. Legendary weapons known as divine arms appear, wielded only by the gifted. An armored man summons a glowing mystical sword that embodies his soul. A warrior unleashes a devastating sword attack, demonstrating unique powers against a monstrous foe. A legendary ducal house that once defeated the evil god is introduced. The narrator reflects on how this family possesses every advantage from birth. A muscular figure grips a massive ornate weapon over his shoulder, ready for action. Bell stands victorious, having obliterated the horned creature with his immense power. A figure unveils a powerful divine sword that radiates an awe-inspiring light. Standing over defeated monsters, he raises his glowing sword and vows to become a hero. A sudden twist is foreshadowed as the narrator interrupts the expected outcome. During the oracle ceremony, a young boy stands before a robed figure, awaiting the discovery of his divine armament. The boy remembers being told he had nothing. He sinks deeper into the water, consumed by the weight of his family's disappointment. A white-haired character shouts and threatens a blue-haired character, forcing them to retreat while two girls watch. The second son of the Catastrophe family, introduced as Zane, steps forward. One character forcefully grabs another by the collar and threatens them for failing to summon a divine weapon. Reeling from the attack, he winces in pain. The oldest and second daughters are introduced as they stand together, one anxious and the other confident. Two young women rush forward, urgently calling out for help. One character swiftly tangles their legs to trip another, catching them off guard. A blonde character stands over someone who has fallen to the ground in fear. A foot presses down on the distressed person's head as they are scolded for interfering. A domineering woman stands over an injured girl, openly humiliating and threatening her. Belle rushes in, frantically calling out for Syra. Zane strikes the protagonist from behind, leaving him reeling in pain. Belle pins his opponent to the ground and delivers a brutal punch while taunting him. A furious attacker punches the blue-haired character in the face, shouting an insult. A child is shoved to the ground and called a mongrel by another. They suffer relentless torment at the hands of others. Kneeling on the castle rooftop at sunset, he confesses his regret and blames himself for being powerless. A girl promises unwavering support to the person she cares about. He promises to become strong on his own, determined to prove himself without relying on a divine weapon. A young man vows to protect someone with his life, his resolve burning as brightly as the embers around him. Belle embraces the young girl, offering comfort as glowing particles drift around them. Someone admits they failed to keep a promise. A few days later, he is banished from his home and walks away alone. Overwhelmed by despair, he cries out in frustration under pouring rain. Desperate for strength, he struggles on the ground, determined to save her from danger. He trains relentlessly with an ordinary sword, determined to overcome the limits that separate him from paladins wielding divine weapons. Someone resolves to do whatever it takes to become stronger. The protagonist dashes out of the village, forced to escape with only a backpack. A hand forcefully slams a tied sack onto the table, drawing everyone's attention. Belle slams a bag of gold on the counter and demands one of every weapon in the shop. A hand reaches out and takes gold coins from the stack. A worried man questions whether the risky request is meant to start a war. 2 years pass. A figure pivots sharply on the dusty ground, dodging with swift precision. Belle races forward on horseback, carrying multiple large weapons. He rushes forward with determination, cutting through the speedline background. A group of orc-like attackers advances with weapons drawn, closing in menacingly. He grips his sword and mace, surveying the array of weapons as he prepares to fight. With determination, the protagonist prepares to face the next challenge. Belle readies his sword, energy surging around him as he prepares to strike. One person aims a revolver while the other raises an axe, both poised to attack. Belle stands victorious among the defeated green monsters, holding an axe and a sword. A determined figure steps onto the stone floor, signaling their arrival. A hooded figure stands on a rocky cliff, surveying the vast landscape ahead. A cloaked figure calls out to someone off-panel under the bright sky. A hooded figure questions someone about carrying so many weapons. He wonders if his desires stem from lacking a divine weapon. A hooded figure remembers that the true purpose of the journey was to find someone to entrust an important task to. A cloaked figure is recognized for possessing the potential to become a hero. Belle stands outside, alert and prepared for what comes next. A hand surges with glowing blue energy as magic begins to manifest. A hooded figure hurls a fierce bolt of lightning at the unsuspecting opponent below. A lightning-charged sword slams into the ground, forcing Belle to recoil in shock. The protagonist abruptly looks up, startled by an unexpected threat. A hooded figure solemnly hands over an important item. A rune-inscribed sword crackles with blue energy as it stands embedded in the ground. Belle hesitates before reaching out to grasp the glowing, rune-covered sword. A determined figure tightly grips the hilt of a sword marked with a glowing emblem. He inspects the scabbard and is shocked to find it empty. The divine scabbard Avalon is introduced, revealing its unique power to store and transfer divine armaments. A determined figure charges forward, gripping the ancestral sword passed down through generations. The weapons of 5 legendary heroes are revealed. A determined figure channels powerful energy into a glowing sword, preparing to wield the ultimate divine armament. With unwavering resolve, the protagonist commits to taking decisive action. 3 years later, A dragon soars above as two cloaked figures stand atop a tower. A massive red dragon dives toward the shocked figure below, who braces for the imminent attack. A massive dragon unleashes a devastating blast of fire. Bell hesitates as he prepares to reveal something important. A figure raises his glowing hand, preparing to unleash a surge of heat. With a look of determination, he raises his glowing sword and summons Avalon. Bell braces himself with his staff, ready to face what comes next. A character issues a command to initiate a summoning. A determined figure draws a glowing sword as blue energy crackles around him. A hand ignites with intense blue magical energy, signaling the activation of a powerful spell. A determined hero unleashes a green, glowing shield to defend against an incoming threat. A massive surge of magical energy erupts from the wall, striking the advancing dragon. A figure raises a massive, electrified hammer as lightning surges around him and unleashes its power. Bell strains to hold back the electrified weapon pressing down on him. Bell launches himself through the air and strikes at the red dragon's open jaws with his massive weapon. A powerful lightning attack crashes down on the giant monster. A triumphant figure stands over a defeated monster, demonstrating complete control of Avalon's power. A hooded figure commands someone to go to their sister, assuring them that even an S-rank paladin is no longer a threat. Bell freezes in shock as he witnesses something unexpected. A figure shouts in triumph atop a tall, isolated tower while another stands supportively beside them under the dramatic sky. After 5 years of exile, the determined figure charges forward, ready to protect his little sister. Someone sprints urgently down the forest path, determined to catch up. Bell charges forward on horseback, racing urgently toward his destination. A cloaked rider surveys the burning city from a distance. He slowly regains consciousness, scanning his surroundings in confusion and distress. Flags bearing a dark emblem burn as chaos engulfs the area. He spots the crest of the Duchy of Roth-Windsor and tenses, realizing its significance. A brutal civil war breaks out as soldiers fight fiercely amid flames and chaos. Someone desperately calls out, searching for Syra. Bell rushes down the hallway, urgently searching for someone. The ornate double doors swing open, flooding the hallway with blinding white light. Bell stumbles upon a gruesome scene, finding a bloodied girl lying motionless amid the rubble. Bell stares ahead in disbelief, frozen by an unexpected revelation. Bell rushes into the room and discovers someone collapsed on the floor. Bell cradles the wounded person in his arms and screams their name in panic. Bell desperately cradles a mortally wounded companion, blood staining their face and neck. Bell reels back in shock, his face contorted with fear as he processes the sudden realization. A character offers unwavering support to another, promising to always be on their side. A girl smiles peacefully in the gentle light. A terrified figure screams while holding an injured person in his arms. He collapses in despair, clutching the unconscious girl and agonizing over his failure to protect her despite his newfound power. A massive energy blast tears through the darkness, crackling with raw power. Bell desperately clutches an injured companion on a bloodied floor as ominous red energy surrounds them. A red energy attack pierces Bell's chest as he throws himself in front of the white-haired figure. A shadowy figure steps into view as red energy swirls menacingly around them. A character senses the overwhelming presence of an S-rank divine arms user as a shadowy figure emerges in a storm of red energy. Someone questions whether the person before them is Bell Catastrophe, noting rumors of his long-ago banishment. Badly injured and confused, he recoils in fear, unsure if the stranger recognizes him. A menacing figure threatens to send someone to their sister. Realization strikes as the true killer of Syra is identified. A shadowy figure issues a chilling ultimatum, demanding perpetual companionship for someone's sister. Bell, bloodied and furious, shouts in defiance at his adversary. A figure watches as a torrent of red energy and lightning bursts toward a blinding light overhead. Refusing to accept death, the character erupts with defiance and a desperate desire for revenge. A small, determined figure stands firmly before a towering, armored presence in the grand, blue-lit hall. Disoriented and anxious, the protagonist finds himself in a shadowy, unfamiliar corridor, clutching his chest in confusion. A grand stained glass window reveals the imposing Catastrophe Cathedral. A figure announces the start of the oracle ceremony as someone confusedly questions how they survived death. Someone suddenly realizes the importance of the oracle ceremony. Bell is stunned as he realizes he has traveled back in time. In a blue-lit corridor, Bell listens as a robed figure instructs him to extend his arms and visualize his divine armament. He quietly reflects on the significance of his divine armament. He remembers the moment before he gained Avalon, standing calm and focused as blue energy surrounds him. Someone fears they will have to begin again and face banishment. A surge of blue energy bursts from the person's chest as two hands channel its power. He reacts with shock and disbelief to the unexpected news. The protagonist experiences a critical moment of realization filled with urgency and determination. A robed figure dramatically unveils the legendary sword Avalon. Surrounded by a glowing blue aura, the character clutches a mystical scroll and contemplates starting over. With unwavering resolve, the character declares his intention to rewrite fate using newfound power. The moment of action begins. With fierce determination, he seizes the glowing sword as blue energy swirls around him. He grips the glowing sword, preparing to unleash its power. A hooded figure inspects the glowing divine scabbard, noting its rarity with disappointment. Bell challenges the assumption that he can't fight using only a scabbard. A hooded and masked character hurriedly tries to explain himself. Bell strides forward and confidently presents the glowing divine armament. Racing down the hallway, the protagonist urgently heads towards Syra's room, desperate to find her alive. The protagonist urgently calls out to Syra, his eyes filled with determination. The door swings open as someone enters with urgency. A lone figure sits quietly, gazing out the sunlit window in deep thought. A girl rushes forward with a joyful smile, warmly greeting her long-lost brother. He studies her face, recalling fond memories from the past. A young girl rushes excitedly toward the boy in the brightly lit room. A young woman eagerly asks about the ceremony. A man hugs a surprised young woman tightly, overcome with relief at their emotional reunion. A girl embraces someone closely and asks what is wrong, showing concern. Overwhelmed with regret, he embraces her and desperately apologizes for failing to protect her in his previous life. Bell kneels in panic, cradling a severely wounded person as blood spreads across the ground. He holds the girl tightly and vows to protect her from any pain or sadness. Someone quietly calls out for their older brother. A startled boy accidentally bumps into a girl and quickly apologizes. The boy gently hugs the smiling girl, sharing a warm and tender moment. A character looks up with longing and softly calls out for his brother. Tears stream down his face as he tries to hold back his emotions. A girl gently reassures the blue-haired boy by patting his head and telling him that everything will be alright. He reacts in shock and fear upon realizing Syra is in danger. A mocking voice comments on the group's interaction. A white-haired figure bursts through the door, startling the two people inside. A predatory figure with glowing eyes confronts Bell with a menacing smirk. A protective figure shields a worried girl, while urgently calling out for help. A character reveals they have overheard a secret, displaying a smug smile. One character confronts another about the outcome of the oracle ceremony, hinting at mockery and underlying tension. He confirms that the object is a scabbard. A character suppresses a laugh, clearly amused by the situation. One character bursts into mocking laughter, loudly insulting another for having only a scabbard and hurling further ridicule about his heritage. A cocky figure mocks his opponents, questioning their ability to fight. He clenches his fist, steeling himself for what comes next. With a fierce glare, he demands that his words be taken back. One character confronts another and demands they retract their statement, escalating the argument. Bell confronts his opponent with fury, issuing a fierce challenge. A furious young man throws a powerful punch at someone who defied him. He clenches his fist as blue energy flares around him, preparing to unleash his power. One fighter delivers a powerful punch that sends the other staggering backward. Bell recoils in pain, crying out as sweat flies from his face. Bell collapses to the ground, injured and unable to stay upright. He warns his opponent not to insult Syra again. Bell glares at his enemy and yells in fury. A furious figure unleashes a surge of blue energy from his glowing hand. Bell furiously threatens his opponent while thrusting a large, flaming weapon forward. He prepares to activate the flame spear, facing the threat with unwavering resolve. A silver-haired man lunges forward with his spear, forcing the blue-haired boy to shield the girl behind him. A character gently reassures the girl by placing a comforting hand on her head as she looks up in surprise. He assures everyone that he will handle the situation. Bell thrusts his glowing hand forward and unleashes a surge of energy to summon Avalon. Bell strides forward with determination, brandishing a glowing, rune-engraved scroll in preparation. One character aggressively taunts the other, doubting their chances as a confrontation escalates, with only a scabbard for defense. A defiant paladin brandishes a fiery weapon and challenges his opponent by declaring his rank. Bell looks up at the swirling clouds, deep in thought. Paladins are organized into ranks based on their strength. A novice receives his divine armament and starts at F rank. He channels mana into his weapon, advancing to E rank. A shadowy figure channels mana to unleash a devastating special attack with a glowing weapon, shattering ice in the process. A fierce red dragon launches a fiery assault as the protagonist braces behind a glowing shield, striving to awaken his divine armament's unique abilities. A boy critically evaluates another's progress, noting that while being E rank at 14 is impressive, there is still room for development. The boy smirks with confidence, unfazed by the evaluation. Bell shouts furiously, demanding an explanation for the laughter. Bell leans in with a confident grin and teases the other person by calling them cute. Fueled by rage, Bell lunges forward and attacks with his spear. A young girl urgently calls out for help, her expression filled with alarm. A figure extends his hand toward the glowing cylinder as the sword of light begins to manifest. Bell unleashes a powerful sword attack, calling forth Caliban in a surge of energy. Stunned and confused, the protagonist struggles to comprehend the shocking truth about his ignite. A mysterious glowing sword is suddenly revealed, shocking everyone present. Bell is hurled backward through the air, tightly clutching his spear. A cursed axe spins violently through the air, intensifying the battle. Recoiling on the ground, the protagonist stares in terror at the menacing weapon looming before him. He stares down at the scabbard, suddenly realizing something is wrong. He hesitates, uncertain about what to do next. Standing over his opponent, he threatens to make him cry and beg. Furious, he accuses his opponent of deception after realizing a hidden weapon was involved. Bell, cornered and furious, threatens retaliation against his opponent. Bell sprints down the hallway toward the closed door, intent on making his escape. Bell blocks the way, insisting the conversation isn't over. A hand unveils a powerful, glowing gun and announces its name. Bell raises the glowing weapon and unleashes its power in a surge of energy. Bell is violently hurled forward, his face showing clear distress. Bell narrowly dodges as a glowing blade slices past his face. A destructive force erupts, sending debris flying in all directions. Bell stands rigidly by the window, startled as glass shards scatter from the newly shattered pane. A character reacts in shock to something unexpected. A character recoils in shock as a glowing, futuristic gun is revealed. A character reels in disbelief after witnessing someone wield multiple divine arms despite having just used a sword. The protagonist strides forward with two weapons and delivers a fierce warning to his adversary. A gloved figure brandishes a futuristic weapon, issuing a clear threat. Bell stares ahead in shock, visibly alarmed by the sudden event. Bell levels his ornate gun and threatens to shoot his opponent. One character flees in panic through the doors while another watches, visibly relieved. A character stares ahead in astonishment, overwhelmed by what they see. A concerned boy checks if the startled girl is alright and confirms she used her divine armament. The protagonist smiles confidently and assures everyone that he will handle everything. A young woman beams with admiration as she praises the protagonist's bravery. The protagonist glares forward, fiercely vowing not to lose to anyone. Someone questions Zane about the truth of a situation as a grand building stands in the background. A nervous young man stands before the Duke, responding obediently in the grand hall. A stern man sits on his throne, contemplating the news that Bell has acquired multiple divine armaments. A character urgently warns the Duke that the enemy's weapon is unnatural and likely the result of a demonic pact. With fierce determination, Bell insists that they must banish someone immediately. An older man pauses to contemplate something that has caught his interest. One character collapses to the ground in shock as another turns away in the glowing lit room. An older man strides down the hall as a worried attendant tries to stop him, asking about his destination. The older man insists on investigating the situation himself. He exhales in relief, finally able to relax after the recent tension. Bell collapses face down on the bed, completely exhausted. He lies in bed, frustrated that despite his recent victory, he is still limited by his young body. Exhausted after trying to use mana, the protagonist realizes he still lacks proper control. He fires his gun expecting a fire bullet, but only a plain, attributeless shot comes out. He realizes his current strength is only at the level of an F rank. Bell makes up his mind to take action and change his situation. Armored warriors clash fiercely with swords as fire rages around them. The attackers are revealed to be the Rothwindsors as their flags wave over the burning scene. A flag bearing the Rothwindsor emblem unfurls, marking the arrival of a powerful faction. A rival paladin family, long at odds with the Catastrophes, is introduced as a potential cause for the recent attack. He realizes the shadowy figure who killed Syra and himself was also part of the same group. Lying in bed, he resolves to protect Syra this time. A determined figure resolves to improve their status within the household. The large ornate doors swing open, flooding the room with bright light. He wakes up in an unfamiliar room, confused by his surroundings. A stern figure addresses someone after a long separation, signaling a significant reunion. Bell jolts upright in shock upon hearing unexpected news about his father. A commanding figure unleashes a devastating attack. 20 years ago, a lone figure confronted a colossal, horned monster under a turbulent sky. A lone warrior unleashes a devastating sword strike, cutting down monstrous enemies in a blinding flash of light. An armored warrior cuts down monsters across the Black Continent, earning the title of Genesis Sword Saint. An older man and a white-haired boy in military uniforms enter a room together with serious expressions. Bell comes to a critical realization, his expression turning serious as he looks ahead. He realizes he has been framed and looks back with suspicion. A white-haired figure strides toward the boy, signaling the start of a tense confrontation. Determined to change his fate, Bell decides that earning his father's attention is the fastest way to improve his status. Kneeling on one knee, the blue-haired boy greets the Duke with respectful anticipation. An older man observes that the other person has changed significantly since their last meeting. An older man asks the kneeling boy to relax and have a conversation, signaling the start of a heartfelt talk. Bell refuses to answer, warning that any careless words could lead to serious consequences. An older man pauses to consider his next move. A young boy quickly obeys as he is ordered to stand up. The elderly man stands firm, matching the challenge with unwavering resolve. He is suddenly overwhelmed by an intense, crushing force. The imposing man rebukes one brother for fighting and demands an explanation for his actions. He clenches his jaw, struggling to control his reaction. A white-haired character threatens their opponent, who reels back in alarm. With fierce determination in his eyes, he resolves to challenge his father's dominance. The protagonist steels himself, ready to take decisive action. He admits he got angry because their little sister was bullied. A stern elder confronts someone for breaking the rules out of spite. He firmly admits to his actions and stands by his decision. A character confronts another about breaking the rules, gripping the hilt of a sheathed sword. He declares that abandoning loved ones would betray the ideals of a paladin. He stands firm and declares that he will fight to protect his sister, even against his own brother. A character glares with fierce intensity, clearly preparing for a critical moment. A determined figure draws his sword, committing to the path of a knight. A blade halts inches from his throat, forcing him to stare danger in the face. An older man threatens the younger man with a sword, demanding to know if he would still fight back even against him. Bell declares his determination to stand firm, even against the Duke. An elderly man carefully studies the situation, his wary gaze revealing his vigilance. An older man expresses his approval with a satisfied smile. The older man announces he will overlook the incident, prompting shocked protests from the younger person. An older man sternly confronts someone about bullying their sister and losing to their younger brother. Startled by a sudden flash of lightning, the character freezes in shock. A character delivers a harsh rebuke and demands that the other person stay away for now. An older man in a cape commends the young boy for boldly expressing his views in the formal chamber. One person apologizes for speaking too brashly, while the other accepts the apology and praises their resolve. The older man instructs the younger character to demonstrate his power. A commanding figure orders their opponent to reveal their divine armament. Bell bows his head in acceptance of the order. A character forms a glowing blue energy orb between their hands. An elderly man reacts with shock as he notices something unexpected. He reveals his divine armament, a glowing sword radiating mystical blue light. A man recoils in disbelief when a large scabbard is revealed before him. A legendary sword infused with the spirit of the original paladin is revealed, radiating blue energy. A legendary divine armament is revealed, once wielded by the greatest heroes throughout history. An older man questions the boy about his skill with both sword and gun, and the boy confidently confirms it. He discovers that both items are hidden inside the scabbard. Bathed in a mystical blue aura, the protagonist summons a glowing sword as a mysterious hilt floats above him. An older man stares in disbelief after witnessing someone draw additional divine weapons from the scabbard. The protagonist reveals he can only wield 2 weapons at once but possesses 3 more, shocking the older man with the truth about his hidden power. An older figure dismisses Bell, showing no interest in his abilities or presence. Bell reacts with surprise as someone places high expectations on him. A cloaked figure commands others to work hard before striding away through the doorway. The imposing double doors remain tightly shut, heightening the tension in the air. Overwhelmed by an intense force, he collapses to the floor beside his bed. He lies down, determined to prove his strength despite feeling the weight of new expectations. He sits on the floor with determination, planning to defeat monsters quickly to reach D rank and gain more mana. Bell proposes hunting orcs in the nearby forest to begin their plan. The full moon illuminates the quiet night sky. A severed orc head lies in a pool of blood, showing the aftermath of a brutal fight. A monstrous figure emerges from the swirling dark mist, radiating menace. A massive, glowing blue blade impales the wounded figure, leaving them motionless on the blood-soaked ground. A bloodied wolf stands atop a massive, severed hand, asserting its dominance in the grim scene. A monstrous jaw dripping with blood lunges forward, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. A bloodied wolf unleashes a fierce howl at the full moon. A figure stands at the edge of a misty forest, pausing as memories resurface. After being banished from the mansion in a previous life, he spent time training in this forest. Someone pauses to consider an unexpected inconsistency. Bell advances cautiously through the misty forest, noting the absence of any monsters. A mysterious presence emerges as red eyes glare from the shadows. Bell stands in the moonlit forest, startled as he discovers a severed green arm on the blood-stained ground. A lifeless body lies in a pool of blood, marking the grim aftermath of violence. He freezes in shock, suddenly realizing something is wrong. A menacing roar fills the darkness as Bell stands alone, bracing for the threat ahead. Startled, the protagonist snaps his head up, reacting instantly to an unexpected threat. He quickly raises his sword to block the powerful attack in the darkness. Bell slides backward across the ground, struggling to keep hold of his sword. He squints anxiously, suddenly spotting something shocking off-panel. Bell confronts the enormous Fenrir in the dark forest, immediately recognizing the threat. Bell realizes that the reason for the absence of monsters is the unexpected presence of a D-rank monster, not the orcs he intended to hunt. Kneeling in the forest with a sword, the exhausted fighter braces to confront the monstrous wolf despite having almost no mana left. He braces himself to confront the situation despite wanting to escape. A monstrous wolf with glowing red eyes suddenly appears, snarling threateningly. A tense realization sets in as the threat of immediate death is acknowledged. A massive red eye snaps open, signaling the awakening of a mysterious presence. He narrows his gaze as he notices something critical. A monstrous beast lunges forward at blinding speed. A massive, glowing-eyed beast violently strikes and hurls its surprised opponent across the ground. A hand activates a powerful weapon as energy surges around it. Startled and under pressure, the protagonist fires his uniquely designed gun while recoiling on the ground. A glowing wolf with red eyes lunges forward in a powerful attack. He recoils in shock, shouting in alarm as danger suddenly approaches. He realizes his bullets are too slow due to insufficient mana. The character draws a mystical sword, ready to fight after abandoning the gun. He charges straight at the white wolf, initiating a fierce confrontation. A massive, glowing cloud paw crashes down with overwhelming force. A massive, glowing white wolf lunges at Bell as he braces himself with his sword. With sword glowing, He charges at the massive ethereal wolf. Bell swings his sword to parry the lunging attack of the fierce, glowing-eyed wolf. Bell reacts with shock to unexpected news. Bell stands ready with his sword as the glowing-eyed wolf prepares to attack. He realizes his current weakness compared to his former strength. A massive wolf with glowing red eyes lunges forward, baring its fangs in a fierce attack. Bell struggles to defend himself as a massive clawed creature attacks with overwhelming speed. Bell releases a blazing sword strike that surges through the forest. Bell staggers as his arm is slashed, blood pouring from the fresh wound. Cornered and unable to dodge, he faces the beast's imminent attack. Bell unleashes a powerful attack with his glowing sword. A massive beast lunges at Bell with its jaws wide open. Injured and desperate, the protagonist refuses to give up after reincarnating, determined to survive. Someone urgently shouts a name, breaking the tension in the scene. Bell lifts his glowing shield, bracing himself to defend against the imminent attack. Bell scans the misty forest, gripping his sword and shield as he prepares to confront the approaching threat. Startled by an unexpected sight, the protagonist's eye widens in shock. A massive white beast slams into Bell as he tries to defend himself with a green shield. A large green crystal crashes to the ground, knocking Bell off his feet. Two weapons, crackling with blue energy, lie abandoned on the ground as the tense standoff continues. Bell collapses to the ground, overcome by the realization that he is about to die. Outmatched and weaponless, he struggles to rise as the beast closes in. A fierce wolf snarls as someone prepares to face it, anticipating the challenge ahead. Only one divine armament remains. Injured and desperate, the protagonist decides to use his last resort. Bell stands his ground as the snarling beast prepares to attack. With unwavering resolve, he invites his opponent to approach. A massive skeletal claw, radiating a fierce blue aura, bursts into the scene. With urgency, he activates Aegis. The wolf-like creature charges forward, unleashing a devastating attack surrounded by swirling energy. Bell prepares to unleash dark energy as he confronts the massive wolf-like creature. Bell reluctantly activates a dark artifact, unleashing swirling purple energy. Faced with no other choice, the protagonist resolves to take action. A massive clawed paw digs into the ground as the creature readies to strike. The wolf accelerates and charges forward with increased speed. He steels himself, eyes filled with determination as he prepares to face what comes next. A massive white wolf lunges at Bell, who remains motionless as it prepares to strike. Standing atop a fierce wolf, the figure readies a massive weapon to attack. He stands firm, declaring that he can no longer be harmed. He raises his arm, ready to launch an attack. Bell brings down his glowing weapon with overwhelming force, crushing the mechanical enemy in a surge of energy. A fierce battle erupts as Bell defends himself with his weapon against the massive white beast's attack. A powerful artifact called the Gauntlet of Darkness is revealed, known for greatly enhancing physical abilities. A character's arm transforms into a glowing, armored gauntlet as he prepares to unleash destructive power. A massive, glowing-eyed beast lunges forward in a furious attack. A swirling aura of red and purple energy intensifies as overwhelming power manifests. A menacing glare fills the panel as he threatens his enemy with imminent death. With a menacing smirk and glowing red eyes, he taunts his opponent, daring them to attack. Bell charges forward and attacks the monstrous wolf with his staff. Bell descends rapidly and swings his giant hammer at the glowing beast. Bell's eyes blaze red as he reveals a menacing, unhinged grin in the darkness. A young armored man stands his ground as a massive white beast towers over him. He crushes the shadowy hand with a surge of purple energy, relieved the threat is over. A character battles against the overwhelming influence of the dark divine arm as its power intensifies. The protagonist discovers a Fenrir's body in the forest and wonders why it appeared, since it was absent in a previous life. The unseen speaker dismisses their concerns and decides not to worry about the situation. The protagonist crouches down and inspects a mysterious, ornate object on the ground. A surge of electricity crackles through the armored gauntlet as the yellow cloth is ripped away. After defeating Fenrir, the protagonist realizes that gaining powerful abilities from strong monsters is more efficient than fighting large groups of weaker ones. The protagonist stands over the fallen monster, preparing to test the power of a newly acquired magical hammer. A lone figure sits quietly under a tree, gazing at the distant castle while humming softly. A girl excitedly finishes making a flower crown. A cheerful girl finishes making a flower crown, hoping it will be well received. A surprised character recoils as a hand suddenly offers a flower crown. A blonde character holds up the handmade flower crown and mocks its appearance while the others watch. A smug character taunts someone while presenting a flower crown. A frightened girl calls out anxiously for Jessica in the darkness. A student offers a flower crown to a calm classmate, seeking their opinion. The character mocks their opponent with a smug expression. A blonde character tosses a flower crown while another character responds promptly to a command. A flower crown hurtles through the air in a burst of glowing energy. A young man unleashes a glowing whip-like weapon as magical energy swirls around him. A young girl gasps in alarm, clutching her chest as fear overtakes her. A character expresses boredom and looks for something to do. A character confidently unveils an ornate gun, setting the stage for a dramatic encounter. A confident character points a large gun forward and announces the start of target practice. A clawed gauntlet slams down, releasing a burst of explosive energy. A girl recoils in terror, letting out a scream. He steps forward with his glowing sword, ready to defend the girl behind him. A girl urgently calls out to her brother under the bright sky. He confidently reveals his divine armament, eager to put it to the test as someone watches nervously from behind. A protective figure steps in front of the girl and challenges the approaching group in the forest clearing. A confident figure asserts dominance while an annoyed companion stands by, both bracing for confrontation. He gently comforts the relieved girl, assuring her that everything is okay. With unwavering resolve, Belle focuses ahead, ready to face the impending challenge. A hostile character confronts someone off-panel for glaring at Jessica. Two people in blue uniforms stand on the grass, one silently observing the other and recalling their possible connection to Jessica. Belle confronts someone for speaking disrespectfully to the Duke's son. A smug character openly insults someone by mocking their lineage. The protagonist steels himself for an important decision. A smug character taunts someone off-panel about their unexpected victory over Zane. One character criticizes Zane's careless defeat on the field. A character mocks their opponent's embarrassing defeat by laughing at how they lost to a mere scabbard. With determination, he invites the other to witness the truth for themselves. He questions whether recent events happened by luck or fate. With unwavering determination, he sharpens his focus, preparing for what comes next. An exasperated character yells for someone to take out the trash. A confident young man brandishes his staff, preparing to attack. A surge of blue energy slices through the field, scattering flowers in its wake. A mysterious ice crystal is discovered glowing in the grass. He steadies himself, ready to face the upcoming challenge. A confident rival steps forward, brandishing a glowing blue weapon. A D-rank paladin's formidable ice whip is introduced, highlighting the power gap between ranks. Belle narrows his gaze, focusing intently on the situation. A menacing figure conjures an icy whip and threatens to immobilize their opponent with magic. A character cracks a glowing weapon and threatens to beat their opponent's face beyond recognition. One character interrupts the tense standoff outside the castle with a dismissive remark. He glares to the side and swears revenge for Syra. The purple-haired character smirks and defiantly confronts their opponent. A purple-haired character swings a spiked whip overhead, threatening to freeze their opponent. A surge of energy erupts, unleashing a powerful attack across the area. Belle stands firm as a powerful energy aura surges around him, signaling the release of his inner strength. A stunned opponent recoils in disbelief after their attack is effortlessly dodged. He swiftly dodges attacks using his divine armament, displaying unexpected skill for his rank. Confident in his abilities, Belle reflects that the current challenge is insignificant compared to the harsh training he endured in his previous life. The girl watches in amazement as the impressive display unfolds before her. A furious character taunts their opponent for fleeing during the confrontation. With determination, he taunts his opponent for only running away. Belle stands firm in the field and prepares to take the next attack without dodging. Three shocked characters exchange stunned glances as they react to an unexpected revelation. Belle confidently challenges his opponent, eager to see their attempt to freeze him. A purple-haired character taunts their opponent with an insult, escalating the confrontation. A surge of blue energy bursts from a clenched fist, launching a powerful freezing attack at the opponent. A concentrated wave of energy erupts from the attacker's hand, hurtling toward the distant target. A brilliant surge of energy spirals outward as the attack intensifies. A young girl, shocked and alarmed, calls out desperately for her brother. Suddenly, large shards of ice surge up and trap the character's leg, halting any escape. A character is suddenly immobilized in midair as large, jagged shards of ice trap their hands and feet. A purple-haired character taunts their immobilized opponent, preparing to continue their attack. Belle taunts his opponent, unfazed by their last attack. Belle steps forward, confidently taking control of the situation. He steels himself, his expression hardening as he prepares for the confrontation ahead. A surge of icy energy erupts from his hands as he unleashes a devastating attack. A glowing, rune-covered sword hilt is slowly unsheathed, signaling the start of a powerful action. A hand seizes the sword hilt as powerful energy surges through the air. A character recoils in shock upon witnessing the sudden emergence of a second divine armament. Belle unleashes a surge of mana through the glowing artifact, triggering a powerful magical burst. A figure releases a massive, fiery blast from their fist, sending explosive energy forward. Empowered by the glowing red gauntlet, Belle declares his newfound freedom and prepares to act on his own terms. A stunned character clutches their stomach, overwhelmed by disbelief. A stunned character witnesses an unexpected display of power, realizing someone possesses two divine arms and can already use attributes. Belle points his wooden sword at his opponent, declaring it's time for punishment as the other readies a glowing blade. A massive energy blast erupts from the cannon, tearing through the battlefield. Startled by sudden danger, he reacts in shock. A surge of blue energy smashes through the ice barrier, sending shards flying. A young man is trapped inside a massive block of ice, frozen in place while gripping his sword. A smug challenger mocks their opponent, daring them to break through the thick ice. He confidently declares that the task is easy. A character fires a massive energy blast from their arm, unleashing explosive power. A massive energy beam blasts across the battlefield, catching the opponent off guard. A character's eyes widen in shock as he suddenly realizes something unexpected. A character with purple hair is knocked back by a fiery blow to the abdomen, A figure is violently knocked backward, sliding across the ground in pain. One character collapses to the ground clutching his chest in pain while another looks on in shock and concern. A shocked onlooker realizes that someone has just destroyed the ice with enough strength to defeat a D-rank opponent. Overwhelmed by fear, he realizes he is too weak to win. A tense confrontation begins as one figure approaches another across the grassy field, sword in hand. Bell declares that the confrontation has ended. A startled figure recoils in shock as a hand is pulled back against the glowing blue background. A terrified character brandishes an ornate gun and warns the threat to stay away. Bell braces himself as golden beams of light streak past him in the sky. A terrified character recoils and yells for someone to stay away. A character suddenly stops, digging his foot into the grass. A long-haired character in a blue dress suddenly falls onto the grass with a startled cry. A lone figure steps forward through the tall grass, advancing with purpose. A character reacts in shock, visibly startled and uneasy. A shadowy figure with glowing blue eyes confronts a startled opponent, creating a tense standoff. Bell steps forward and warns his opponent not to mess with Syra again. The character recoils in shock, eyes wide as they react to an unexpected event. A woman in a blue dress flees in terror while a man watches her from behind. Someone steps onto the grass, signaling their arrival on the scene. A girl leaps into a surprised boy's arms, sparking a joyful reunion under the tree. One character checks on the other's injuries, relieved that they are safe despite being hurt. He promises to become the strongest for his younger sister's sake. A character offers a handmade flower crown to someone else after losing the other one. A girl places a flower crown on the boy's head and thanks him for his protection. He gazes up, quietly moved as he receives the flower crown. With a determined smile and a flower crown on his head, the protagonist boldly declares his ambition to make the entire nation admire his cause. Despite recent progress, unresolved problems remain. The narrator reveals that even the knights and servants look down on them for being children of a concubine. Despite defeating his recent opponents, the threat lurking in the darkness remains unchanged. One character silently vows to secure his place in the house to protect his sister, while another stands nearby, listening. He focuses intently, preparing to make a pivotal decision. The story shifts to a grand building set peacefully among lush greenery. In a quiet forest clearing, an older man stands still, gripping a glowing sword as he contemplates his next move. An elderly man stands in silence, lost in thought beneath the clear blue sky. A leaf floats gently through the air beneath the bright sky. An older man swings his sword, sending out a powerful, glowing slash. Leaves float downward through the tranquil sky. An older man cautiously turns to face a determined boy as tension builds between them. An older man calmly asks Bell what they want. Bell looks up and formally asks for permission. With a piercing glare, the character demands an explanation from the opponent. Bell kneels on the grass in silent contemplation under the calm sky. An elderly man stands in silence, lost in solemn reflection beneath the bright sky. Kneeling on the grass, he urgently asks to take the C-rank exam. The boy kneels before the uniformed man and confirms his determination to take the exam. He declares his intention to serve the king as a representative of his house. A cloaked figure kneels before the ruler, accepting a royal order as part of the ducal family's obligations. A hooded figure ambushes an armored guard while three others watch, illustrating the dangerous nature of their assignments. A blonde armored warrior charges at a massive red dragon, striking with a glowing sword to quickly gain recognition in the family. Bell prepares to attack the monstrous creature, aiming to earn achievements by overcoming the difficult challenge. With unwavering resolve, he recognizes that advancing to a higher rank is essential to participate. An older man acknowledges the boy's ambition as they talk on the grassy field. A stern elder warns that it is still too soon. One character explains that most people must become fully fledged paladins before reaching C rank, while another kneels on the grass, focused on tying a cloth. A tense evaluation unfolds as Bell listens anxiously to criticism about his current F rank status and newly acquired divine armament. A character explains that taking the E rank exam is the first step toward promotion. Bell holds out a large, mysterious fang or horn, challenging the other person's decision. An older man recognizes the legendary Fenrir fang and reacts in shock. Kneeling on the grass, one person presents a large fang while another stands over him with a sword, demanding to know how it was obtained. A hand snaps its fingers, triggering a dramatic event. One figure kneels to receive an ornate staff from another, marking a solemn exchange. An ornate gauntlet surges with crackling lightning as it charges with power. Bell stands confidently with his electrified weapon, boasting about subduing his opponent. An older man reels in shock as he realizes his opponent can use attributes. A man evaluates that someone has gained attributes and defeated a D-rank Fenrir alone, confirming that person is strong enough for C-rank. Permission to take the exam is granted, but with an unspecified condition. A stern older man issues a warning as the kneeling figure grips a wooden practice sword. Bell stands firm and confidently declares his refusal. A large crowd gathers in front of the Colosseum as the selection process begins. Two characters discuss the high casualty rate and difficulty of passing the C-rank exam. Two surprised figures peer downward, reacting to something unexpected below. The group reels in shock as a young blue-haired boy suddenly appears before them. The newcomer steps forward and cautiously asks if this is the reception. A girl behind the counter questions the armored boy about his identity and whether he is accompanied by a parent. The armored boy steps up to the counter and firmly states his desire to take the exam, leaving the receptionist startled. A character sternly rejects a request, insisting the other person return when they are older. He insists on being treated as an equal, declaring his status as a paladin. One character interrupts the conversation and decisively ends the discussion about acting like a paladin. A red-haired young man smugly orders the protagonist to leave. Belle assesses the unexpected threat, feeling anxious about the confrontation ahead. A group of startled onlookers spots someone passing through the dimly lit corridor. A powerful D-rank paladin makes a confident entrance, drawing everyone's attention with a glowing gem at his collar. The wielder unleashes the wind sword, sending 8 powerful slashes through the air with a single swing. A red-haired young man receives praise as someone excitedly admits to being his fan in the dim corridor. Belle boasts about his superiority, claiming anyone aiming for C rank must match his level. He realizes his opponent is well known within their rank. Someone aggressively questions if the silent protagonist possesses a divine armament. Belle stands alert in the dim corridor, gripping his sword as he prepares for confrontation. He exhales sharply, bracing himself for what comes next. A red-haired character laughs loudly and mocks the blue-haired character for holding only a scabbard as a weapon. The crowd mocks the outcast for possessing a worthless divine weapon as he stands alone with his sword. A menacing figure issues a deadly threat to his opponent. A smug red-haired character belittles his rival, expressing disdain at being seen as equals in the exam. One character mocks his opponent and gestures toward a glowing portal, provoking tension. The protagonist stands at the counter and demands immediate registration. One character firmly states their resolve while the other reacts with surprise across the table. A hand presents a sealed letter as the requirements for entry are explained. A girl hands over a sealed letter of recommendation, hoping it will allow her to participate as stated by the rules. A surprised character discovers that no one is expected to recommend the young applicant. A hand reveals a prestigious letter of recommendation from Duke Galleon Catastrophe, shocking the recipient. Someone wonders if the blue-haired boy is the Duke's son. Several figures gather in the arena as armored guards protect a blue crystal on the podium, and everyone waits for the event to begin. An instructor steps forward in the arena and begins explaining the rules of the C-rank exam to the assembled examinees. A teleportation stone is presented as the means to enter an underground dungeon. The objective is to retrieve the light jewel from the 5th floor within 5 hours. 3 glowing blue jewels are revealed on the cracked stone's surface. An official announces that only 3 candidates will be promoted to C-rank, causing surprise among the group. The protagonist boasts confidently about becoming one of the chosen, exuding self-assurance beneath the bright sky. The main character strides confidently into the courtyard, drawing shocked and uneasy reactions from the others. Belle looks up with a serious expression and asks if everyone is ready. The exam is announced, and the students surge forward to begin. Belle stands resolutely, extending his hand as he prepares to unleash his power. A glowing monolith activates, radiating powerful energy into the blue-lit surroundings. A boy plummets through the water toward a glowing, mysterious light below. 2 figures crouch together, shielding themselves from a sudden burst of blue magical energy. Separated from the others on the 1st floor, he cautiously considers his next move in the dim cave. He confidently enters the vast dungeon, estimating he'll clear it in 5 hours. Seizing the opportunity, he prepares to face the numerous monsters lurking within the dungeon. A narrator explains that a paladin's mana increases as they defeat more monsters. A determined hand seizes the enchanted sword, unleashing a surge of energy. He raises the glowing sword and declares his intent to hunt down every last enemy. Armored humans clash with sword-wielding lizard creatures in the dark cave. A desperate fighter swings his weapon with full force at the armored lizard creature. A menacing armored lizard creature glares forward with hostile intent. Both figures tense up in fear and brace for defense as danger suddenly threatens them. Someone mocks the weakness of others struggling against minor opponents. Belle cuts down several green monsters with a single, forceful swing of his sword. He flashes a confident, knowing smile. 2 characters cheer excitedly, expressing their admiration for Lennox. Belle swings his sword, releasing a massive energy wave that tears through the shattered ground. A cocky man boasts about being superior to the others while gripping an ornate sword. The group advances up the cavern slope toward the exit, relieved that their progress has become easier. The confident leader boasts about his skills while guiding the group deeper into the cave. A red-haired character mocks others for their weakness while smirking in the shadowy forest. 3 figures advance cautiously down the cracked hallway toward a massive sealed door. The adventurers pause before the imposing blue door, preparing to enter the final room. A hand pushes against the blue barrier, testing its resistance with clear anticipation. A horde of D-rank monsters suddenly fills the dark room, catching the group off guard. Spotting the glowing pedestal across the chamber, the protagonist locates the jewels. A massive stone foot slams into the ground with tremendous force. A massive stone golem with glowing red eyes advances menacingly through the darkness. The red-haired character lunges forward, threatening to cut their opponent into pieces. Belle slashes the glowing sword, sending a surge of energy crashing into the stone barrier. The protagonist recoils in shock after realizing the stone golem is far tougher than expected. A massive stone fist crashes down with overwhelming power, Bell braces himself as he blocks the golem's heavy blow with his sword. Bell is slammed to the ground by a powerful shadowy assailant with glowing red eyes. He realizes his slashes have no effect and recoils in shock. Both armored figures freeze in disbelief, their eyes fixed on the untouched enemy as tension fills the cave. A monstrous creature lunges from the shadows, forcing the group to brace for a sudden attack. Bell swings his glowing weapon overhead, unleashing a powerful attack. A fierce blow from a glowing, electrified sword strikes the monstrous blue creature. The protagonist realizes that physical attacks have no effect on the monstrous blue slime. Bell unleashes a burst of flames from his torch at the winged monster soaring above. A monstrous winged creature swoops down and attacks, forcing 3 characters to dodge or endure its assault. Crouching low and gripping his sword, the protagonist prepares for the final trial of the C rank exam. A towering monster emerges, specifically designed to counter each of the divine arms. Bell braces himself as a massive golem looms threateningly before him. Overwhelmed by fear, the character panics, convinced they are about to die. Bell blocks the stone golem's crushing blow with his staff as debris scatters around them. He pulls down his eyelid, startled by something unusual in his eye. He arrives just in time, breathing heavily with relief. Bell stands over the defeated stone monster, confidently displaying his victory as he confronts the person approaching. Startled and upset, the protagonist yells an insult at the calm observer. A monstrous blue creature lunges forward to attack. Bell gathers powerful magical energy, preparing for his next move. A hand offers an ornate sword, signaling a decisive moment. A stunned observer realizes that the divine armament has suddenly transformed. Bell unleashes a powerful sword attack, sending energy surging through the air. A winged beast attacks from above, forcing the protagonist to brace for incoming projectiles. A figure raises a glowing weapon and summons Ragnarok. Bell unleashes a powerful burst of magical fire at the giant winged beast. 2 armored figures react in shock after learning the kid's divine armament was just a scabbard. Stunned and sweating, the man reacts in disbelief upon witnessing his opponent wield multiple divine arms. Bell expertly wields both a sword and a gun, showcasing impressive combat skill. The protagonist prepares to finish the confrontation as time runs out. Bell charges forward and strikes the creature with his glowing weapon. A shocked young man realizes the person before him is still just a kid. Bell slashes through the attacking slime creature with his glowing sword while defending himself. A firm decision is made as the confrontation intensifies. Bell steps up to the glowing pedestal and examines the 3 blue orbs while 2 armored figures watch. 3 glowing blue orbs are revealed on the cracked pedestal, confirming they have found the light jewels. 2 figures rush up the staircase, expressing astonishment at the display of power and the number of divine arms. Bell steels himself, ready to face the upcoming challenge. 2 characters glare at Bell from the foreground, openly insulting him as he stands apart with his arms crossed. 2 characters stand face to face, trading sharp insults as their hostility escalates. Bell hesitates under pressure, visibly anxious and unsure of how to respond. 3 teammates gather eagerly around the pedestal, preparing to claim the glowing blue jewels that will raise their rank. The protagonist raises a massive, glowing hammer, summoning the legendary weapon Jalmer. 2 glowing blue orbs are revealed atop a cracked stone pedestal under an eerie light. Bell braces himself and raises his weapon to block the armored attacker's assault. Bell slams his weapon down onto the armored opponent with force. 2 startled figures cry out in panic as something shocks them. A character shouts in shock as shattered blue crystals scatter across the ground. Bell raises the glowing blue orb and challenges the others to take it if they can. Bell confronts the group with a harsh insult, accusing them of being useless and dependent on other success. A character stands alone, visibly hurt after enduring a harsh insult. Bell stands before the group, denouncing the knights for their unworthiness. Bell urgently faces the others as tension rises in the night. 4 armored figures enter a glowing stone chamber and prepare to investigate a pile of luminous rocks. He lowers his gaze, admitting his arrogance and expressing gratitude for realizing his weakness. The young man clenches his fist and vows to keep fighting. Bell quietly reflects on the unexpected ambition and honesty of another person. 1 character turns away and leaves the cavern while the other silently watches him go. He sits on the stone bench outside the glowing Colosseum, acknowledging his new C-rank status with determination. He acknowledges that his mana has significantly increased after hunting monsters. He resolves to gain enough status at home to protect Syra. A prominent building stands under the clear sky, marking the setting for the next events. An older man presides over a tense meeting, silently assessing the 2 figures seated before him. A serious man learns that the paladins called Karma are plotting to overthrow Meldia. An older man announces that their family must stop 3 B-rank paladins approaching the kingdom. Inside the hall, 2 men are stunned to learn that Duke Schrabe has already lost a small unit. A forbidden grimoire called Pentagram is revealed as the source of the enemy's enhanced divine arms. A paladin questions whether the group of B-rank paladins has been summoned for the mission. A stern elder declares that they must completely eradicate the threat to prevent further harm. Noticing an empty seat, a character wonders where someone has gone. A character questions his father's intentions while a mysterious, glowing book sits on the table. 3 men in blue uniforms gather tensely around a table, focusing on a mysterious, glowing book. A figure smirks in front of shadowy doors, announcing that the organization has been wiped out. A sinister figure boldly claims responsibility for their ascent as the next duke. The story shifts to a peaceful scene as the sunlit mansion stands quietly under the clear sky. A hand places a tray with bread, a drink, and a cup onto the table. A composed servant presents food to a lady. A young woman sits tensely on the bed as a maid brings her breakfast in the bright morning light. A character smiles warmly and expresses sincere gratitude. A frustrated maid works while a girl in a pink dress watches her curiously from behind. A girl sits alone on the bed in silence, lost in her thoughts. A meager meal of bread and soup is set on the table. The character lowers their gaze, lost in silent reflection. Belle enters the room with a smile, carrying a box. Facing forward with a calm resolve, the protagonist steadies himself, ready for what comes next. A young girl greets someone with excitement, her hands clasped together. A girl rushes toward the blue-haired boy as he returns and offers her a box of souvenirs to make amends for his absence. A table is filled with freshly baked pie, roasted chicken, and shiny apples under warm sunlight. A considerate figure places a meal with apple pie in front of a delighted girl at the table. A young girl happily thanks someone and suggests they eat together. Belle momentarily loses focus as he secretly admires someone. A child faces another day of neglect, forced to eat a meager meal because the servants resent children of concubines. Watching the girl eat, the boy determines to start working soon to improve her living conditions. 3 shadowy figures gather in a sunlit hallway, preparing for a secretive discussion. An elderly man expresses amazement at the defeat of Karma. 2 men are formally introduced as they stand side by side, signaling the arrival of an A-rank individual and his attendant. 2 men in blue uniforms praise Galleon's oldest son for his exceptional abilities. A weary figure sits in silence, gripping the table as tension fills the air. He calmly questions if their session is finished for the day. The white-haired figure reveals that the king has given him a different mission. An older man declares his mission to guard Princess Rika Shudagvalain. An important diplomatic mission is announced, assigning protection and safe travel arrangements for an upcoming journey to a neighboring country. 1 man questions whether the royal guards alone can provide enough security, as both appear concerned. A cautious figure explains that the threat, once wary of Karma, has now been eliminated. The group decides to take the Ricotta Pass, considering it the safest route for their journey. Someone steps purposefully onto the tiled floor, signaling their arrival. Belle interrupts the situation with urgency. Belle stands resolutely before the seated group, confronting them in tense silence. A startled man in uniform calls out to someone off-panel as another watches the situation closely. The older man pauses in silence, deep in thought. The older man announces that the exam has ended as the tense young man waits for the results. He confidently displays his C-rank certificate, announcing his advancement. 2 men in blue uniforms react in shock to the news that someone has reached C-rank at a young age. The older man demands to know why their conversation has been interrupted. A cautious boy speaks up at the table, urging the group to consider a different route for the trip. A skeptical man questions the request for advice as he contemplates the situation. He explains that although monsters are absent from Ricotta Pass, bandits frequently hide there, and the journey through the pass to Arsjay takes 3 days. He suggests taking the risky path through the monster plains. He urgently warns that the monster plains are filled with dangerous monsters. He warns the others about the dangerous monsters living in the plains. A terrifying 2-headed death chimera appears from the darkness. A monstrous shadowy figure emerges menacingly from the darkness. He explains that traveling during the day will be safe because the threats are only active at night. The group learns that the journey to their destination will take only 1 day. The man reluctantly admits his uncertainty, tension evident on his face. An older man silently assesses someone's sharpness and knowledge of monsters. Belle stands silently on the red carpet, waiting for an answer. The boy steps forward and confidently volunteers to escort the princess along the safest and fastest route. An older man sits at the table, quietly contemplating his next move while a dark-haired figure observes in silence. A stern voice cuts through the darkness, breaking the tense silence. A figure stands with their back to the viewer, engulfed in a menacing dark and red aura as tension builds. A shadowy figure with glowing red eyes threatens someone in the darkness. A wilted flower droops in a vase, signaling decay and neglect. Both characters freeze at the table, visibly alarmed by an unexpected event. Belle braces himself as he struggles against the overwhelming intimidation from his oldest brother. A fist slams down, charged with anger and determination. Glowing with blue energy, he asserts his seriousness. Belle raises his glowing sword and declares he will protect the princess at any cost. A sinister figure steps forward, challenging the situation with a menacing question. Belle affirms his oath, gripping his sword with determination. A stern young man in a blue uniform demands silence in the formal hall. A furious blonde man accuses someone of blasphemy against Jin-sama. Belle quickly recognizes the attendant as a high B-rank paladin, signaling a potential threat. A character smirks confidently, hinting at hidden motives. A sinister figure smirks and orders an underling to test the newcomer. A hand grips the hilt of a glowing sword, ready to draw it from its sheath. The character crosses 2 glowing batons in front of their chest, signaling readiness to act. With a cold stare, the character silently vows to punish the concubine's son for his insolence. Someone dashes forward with urgent speed. A surge of energy erupts from the sword, blasting across the room and scattering furniture. The blonde fighter charges forward and swings a glowing weapon at the dark-haired opponent, forcing him to dodge. Alarmed by sudden danger, the protagonist's eyes widen as he senses imminent trouble. A fierce attack is launched with a glowing sword, resulting in a violent clash as the two weapons collide and energy bursts outward. Belle recoils in shock, reacting to an unexpected revelation. The character studies the situation closely, plotting their next move. Belle narrowly deflects the swift attack, realizing he is not yet ready to face a B-rank opponent alone. A commanding voice halts the fight as a blonde fighter swings his sword and a shadowy figure watches from behind. He freezes in shock as something alarming catches his attention. An elderly man sits on a throne and assigns an important task to Belle. A stunned subordinate clutches a sword, struggling to comprehend an unexpected command. With karma eliminated, the older man decides it is the perfect time to assign the first mission. Belle stands tall and promises not to disappoint. Sitting alone by the window, he quietly reflects on recent events. A character grins ominously, exuding a menacing confidence. A massive castle stands beneath the bright sky, establishing the setting. The protagonist arrives at the royal palace for the first time, feeling a sense of awe and reflection. A determined figure strides toward the guarded prison gate, tension thick in the cold, stone-walled room. Two armored guards block the boy's path as he tries to enter through the large gate. Belle presents an official document and announces his arrival to escort the princess. The guards are shocked to learn that the young boy in front of them is actually a C-rank. Belle walks away from the two armored guards as the heavy gate closes behind him. The guards study the young boy with skepticism, doubting his ability to protect the princess. With unwavering focus, he scans the scene, ready for what comes next. Belle strides toward the halted carriage as the guards kneel and a woman waits by the door. A character teases the bodyguard with a mocking remark. A character hesitantly prepares to reject the request. A young woman firmly dismisses someone, making it clear she no longer needs their help. A towering castle rises into the clear sky, establishing the setting. Seated on the throne, the man questions his kneeling subordinate about Rika's departure for Arsche. The masked character confirms the situation with a composed demeanor. A masked figure kneels before the throne and reports that she is protected by several royal guards and the Duke's son, Belle. Someone realizes that Belle, Catastroph's youngest son, is supposed to still be a child. A concerned figure warns another to stay alert, suggesting there may be hidden dangers. Seated on the throne, one figure authorizes the other to use a specific measure if needed. A figure confidently equips ornate weapon claws, preparing for confrontation. A masked figure brandishes 3 ornate blades, declaring their expertise in assassination. A horse-drawn carriage arrives at the gate of a large stone fortress. 2 travelers sit in silence as the train moves forward, each lost in thought among the other passengers. The protagonist stands guard over the first princess during her ceremonial visit to Arsche, aware of the duty's significance. The main character steels himself, determined not to fail. The protagonist pauses, sensing a significant change approaching. He sits in silence, feeling unwelcome and uncertain about his place. One character anxiously asks why they are considered unnecessary, seeking an explanation in the tense room. The carriage door slowly opens, revealing a stream of light from inside. A girl reflects on her determination to handle everything on her own. The silver-haired character asserts independence by refusing protection, confident in their own divine armament. He hesitates, startled by her unexpected arrogance. The white-haired character gazes out the window, lost in thought. A street performer entertains a bustling crowd in the lively market. A single lock of white hair pops up unexpectedly. A young girl gazes through the window with a hopeful smile. He smiles peacefully, eyes closed in quiet satisfaction. The character suddenly whirls around, visibly shocked by unexpected news. One character apologizes and explains that the other reminded him of his little sister, prompting a question about her. A character quietly reflects that another person would have responded similarly. 2 people discuss their sibling relationship, while a carriage moves quietly through the village. A cheerful girl with cat ears smiles as someone explains that they play house together because she is still young. Sitting alone by the window, the character admits feeling unable to trust anyone among their many siblings in the palace. A white-haired character studies the scene, suspecting a conflict over succession involving the girl. He realizes the current situation resembles what happened in his own home. 2 siblings stand together, as one reveals how they are tormented by their older siblings after losing their mother. He pauses, silently contemplating his next move. Belle stands confidently and assures support if anything happens. The white-haired character firmly rejects any offer of help, turning away with a distant expression. The carriage moves steadily down the empty road as someone sharply rejects another's attempt at understanding. A group of hooded figures assembles in the dark forest near the fortress wall, preparing for a covert operation. Under the moonlit sky, the closed castle gate stands as someone approaches. The group arrives at their destination by carriage after traveling all day. After a long journey, the weary traveler stretches outside under the night sky. Someone descends rapidly through a blur of blue streaks and motion. A group stands at the entrance and formally welcomes the arriving figure. A white-haired character demands to know the newcomer's identity. A smiling knight with long blonde hair introduces himself as one of the guard knights, expressing a warm welcome while another, more stoic knight stands behind him. One character tries to recall the significance of a name while standing beside another during a tense night. He notices something unusual about being greeted outside the town. The scene moves deeper into the shadowy forest under the cover of night. A hooded attacker lunges with a dagger while the other character raises a hand to defend themselves in the moonlit forest. Bell stands alone, surrounded by armored guards as several figures confront him. He notices the heavy guard presence while analyzing his next move. A cloaked figure hurls a dagger downward at high speed. Bell decides it will be easier to attack his target once she leaves the castle. Bell swiftly blocks the incoming knife attack with his decorated sword, protecting himself and the person behind him. The group recoils in shock as they witness an unexpected event unfold. An alarm is raised as an enemy attack begins under the ominous full moon. A character launches a sudden sword attack as blades rain down on their opponent. He realizes he is surrounded by overwhelming danger and begins to panic. He lunges at his opponents with his sword, unleashing a furious attack. A resolute defender blocks a rapid series of sword strikes, protecting the startled person behind him. Bell steps forward with his sword raised, blocking the way to protect the princess. Bell observes his opponent and determines that deflecting the knives so easily indicates about B-rank skill. Alarmed by sudden danger, the cloaked figures scramble to escape through the forest. The leader commands the knights to capture the assassins and prepare to escort the princess out of the castle. Bell urges the princess to follow him while another figure carries her to safety. Bell pauses in contemplation, lost in thought. Night falls as the full moon rises over the quiet, shadowy buildings. Inside the dimly lit castle room, a knight assures two others of their safety while one confidently insists he can protect himself. A soldier is suddenly struck in the neck and cut off mid-sentence as blood erupts. A young woman stumbles upon a bloodied armored body and recoils in shock. Bell stands confidently under the spotlight, presenting an ornate dagger. The young person stares ahead in shock, unable to believe what just happened. A serious character examines their blade, pondering someone else's readiness to make the ultimate sacrifice. Bell dismisses the failed attempt with a smug expression. A tense confrontation erupts as an anxious girl demands to know what the other person is doing. A sinister figure leans forward with a menacing grin and announces his intent to assassinate. A frightened girl falls to the floor as a shadowy figure confronts her. A frightened girl recoils on the ground as a menacing figure towers over her. A trembling figure desperately tries to summon a weapon but is unable to control their shaking. Bell grins menacingly as he delivers a chilling farewell. A terrified character cries out for help, desperate to be rescued. Bell crashes violently through the window as shards scatter in all directions. The protagonist is stunned by unexpected news. Bell lies unconscious on the floor, surrounded by shards of broken glass after a sudden defeat. Bell steps through the doorway, gripping a mysterious object with determination. Startled, the character looks up in shock, sweat forming as anxiety overtakes him. Bell arrives under dramatic lighting and quickly apologizes for being late. A boy with glowing blue eyes steps into the room and announces his late arrival. Startled, the character freezes upon seeing Bell appear unexpectedly. The character steps forward with determination, breaking the tense silence. Bell steps forward and confidently assures everyone that he will handle the situation. Realizing the distraction failed, one person stands confidently while another sits on the floor, tense and alert. Two rivals glare at each other, ready to fight as the challenge is made clear. A character recoils in disbelief, struggling to process an unexpected revelation. A confident figure stands under a spotlight and reveals that Peter Fred's real name is Von Riggle. A stunned character reacts in shock to something unexpected. He learns that his divine armament consists of 2 sets of 3 thunder darts. In a dim hallway, one figure interrogates the other about a list of past targets. The group receives unsettling news about Marquis Reisenbart. Bell demands to know how the other person possesses such detailed knowledge. He recalls capturing the fugitive in his previous life. A tense confrontation erupts as one character accuses another of attempting to kill the princess, declaring that no explanation can justify the betrayal. One character stands protectively in front of a fallen companion, while another sits on the ground, visibly startled. A character reacts with a smirk, clearly intrigued by what they see. The confident character challenges their opponent, dismissing the idea that a C rank could defeat a B rank. Overwhelmed by the force of the attack, the protagonist realizes that facing a B rank opponent is currently beyond his abilities. Bell assures someone that he has complete confidence in their abilities. A furious character lunges forward, threatening their opponent with sharp metal claws. Bell prepares himself, anticipating that the opponent will attack with throwing weapons. A storm of magically propelled swords hurtles toward Bell as he braces for impact. Bell swiftly dodges a barrage of projectiles, leaving several afterimages behind him. One fighter charges forward with determination while the other braces for the attack. A blonde fighter swings his sword in a powerful diagonal slash at the blue-haired opponent. He recoils in shock, visibly startled by unexpected news. As one opponent crouches in anticipation, the other rushes behind with a dagger, attempting to attack from the rear. A hand stretches forward through the glowing blue light, ready to act. One opponent attempts a surprise sword attack from behind, but the other effortlessly dodges, anticipating every move. Stunned by his opponent's unexpected speed, the character struggles to comprehend how he is being matched. Bell calmly warns his opponent that he can kill at any time and demands surrender. A shadowy figure issues a tense warning in the darkness. Overcome with rage, he shouts furiously at his opponent. Seizing the opportunity, he notes that his opponent's anger will make his attacks predictable and vulnerable. A knife-wielding attacker unleashes a rapid stab followed by a downward slash at the protagonist. The defender dodges the sword attack and counters with a series of swift stabs. A fierce upward sword slash is unleashed. A stunned onlooker watches a small child fiercely battle an assassin. Two fighters collide in a powerful sword clash, each pushing against the other with intense determination. Clutching the glowing pendant, the character silently confronts their own regret and self-doubt. A clenched fist activates the power of a glowing, ornate ring. A powerful sword strike crashes down as the defender braces behind a shield, both uncertain if this will decide the battle. A glowing sword slashes through the air, striking the startled opponent and drawing blood. Bell crouches defensively, gripping his throwing cards as he prepares to counterattack. He realizes his opponent is anticipating every move, intensifying his anxiety. A wary character cautions another not to lower their guard, hinting at hidden dangers. The character prepares to use a trump card after being left with no other options. Bell carefully analyzes the opponent's power, realizing it is a B-rank paladin's unique ability that generates an impenetrable lightning barrier. Bell boldly announces his readiness to fight while brandishing a glowing sword. A confident character challenges their opponent while presenting a glowing vial. Someone uncorks a glowing potion bottle, preparing for the next move. He spots a dangerous threat and urgently calls attention to it. A character confidently drinks a glowing blue liquid from a vial while addressing someone about the tears of the Dragon King. A glass vial crashes to the ground, spilling blue liquid across the floor. Bell staggers back, clutching his chest as blood spills from his mouth. Realizing the opponent has a super rare item that boosts mana, Bell becomes anxious about the sudden threat. Gripping electrified blades, the character threatens retaliation with fierce determination. He slams his arms down, unleashing a surge of white lightning energy. A silhouette unleashes a barrage of glowing energy projectiles and a surge of power. With unwavering determination, he steels himself for the challenge ahead. Bell braces himself with his sword as crackling magical shards hover threateningly around him. A surge of energy erupts as the electrified sword releases its power. The character launches an aggressive attack with a confident shout. A crackling lightning cage traps Bell as he raises his sword, ready to fight back. Bell is suddenly pulled upward by a powerful magnetic force. A frightened character sits against the wall and urgently calls out for help. Bell urgently raises his glowing shield as crackling energy fills the air. Bell stands behind a glowing energy shield and commands a powerful attack. Green energy crackles around him as he tries to break the barrier, but the wind only spins uselessly inside. With a confident smirk, the protagonist unleashes a surge of crackling yellow lightning to summon the Thunderbird. The enchanted sword releases a surge of crackling energy, filling the air with lightning. A massive blast of golden energy engulfs the character, overwhelming him. Electric energy overwhelms him, forcing a scream of agony. A menacing figure taunts the opponent, promising a swift defeat. Crackling with energy, he struggles desperately to stay alive. Magical spears descend rapidly from the sky, launching a fierce attack. A golden sword and a blue spear clash powerfully in midair, releasing a burst of energy. A sudden blast hurls one figure backward through a glowing blue space as another watches in shock. Bell spins around, visibly shocked by a sudden threat. A silver-haired girl unleashes a surge of power with her glowing sword, catching her opponent off guard. She gathers her courage and draws her sword, ready to fight. Bell explodes in anger, shouting aggressively. An attacker leaps down with daggers, while the opponent below readies a bow in defense. The white-haired character freezes in shock, suddenly realizing something alarming. A character steps forward and expresses gratitude to the royal figure for their assistance. Startled by an unexpected threat, the character reacts in alarm. Bell launches a powerful, high-speed strike with his glowing sword. Bell reels back, stunned and bleeding heavily from a critical injury. Bell endures the pain, his battered face set with determination as he refuses to give in. The aggressor stands over the bleeding protagonist, having just stabbed him with a sword. Bell, showing concern despite his own injuries, checks if the other person is hurt. The character lowers his gaze in silence, lost in troubled thoughts. A character steps forward decisively, signaling the start of a confrontation. A girl gently examines the boy's injury, showing concern for his well-being. The silver-haired character apologizes for unintentionally dragging someone into the succession conflict. With an encouraging smile, he praises the other's strength after the challenge. A white-haired character admits they are not as strong as their companion. One character extends a reassuring hand and promises support if the other ever needs help. A blue-haired boy kneels and expresses gratitude to the higher authority. A character with long white hair and violet eyes observes the scene with a calm, knowing smile. A character removes a ring from their finger and offers it to someone. A girl hands a pendant to a boy as a sign of gratitude and friendship. Bell stares at his glowing hand, realizing the mysterious ring holds unexpected significance. A magical ring with a glowing blue gemstone is revealed, radiating with mysterious energy. A grand castle stands beneath the bright sky, introducing the new setting. An older man seated behind a desk formally welcomes a kneeling boy back. An older man acknowledges someone's efforts in protecting the princess and commends them. Bell kneels before the stone structure and reports that he has completed his task. An older man with long white hair and a beard quickly turns his attention to something unexpected. A hand presents the glowing Ring of Solomon, revealing its true identity. Bell presents the ring, explaining that it was given to him as a sign of Her Highness's trust. A legendary artifact, the Ring of Solomon, is revealed as it radiates blue energy in the darkness. An elder contemplates the surprising acquisition of a powerful royal treasure. A narrator reflects on the possibility that their son is more exceptional than they originally believed. He exhales sharply, steeling himself for what comes next. An authoritative man informs the blue-haired boy that he will soon be enrolled in Athena. Startled, Bell reacts with shock as he calls out in surprise. The elite Paladin Academy Athena stands before a group of armed figures, open only to those from distinguished families. Most children in the Catastrophe family are educated by private tutors, but there is an exception to this tradition. The candidate sits alone on the throne, contemplating the family tradition of enrolling in school to prepare for leadership. He realizes he is now on track to become the heir. One character kneels and accepts orders to continue training while the other sits behind a desk and gives instructions. A character quietly addresses the Duke with respect. A stern older man demands an explanation. Bell stands upright in the center of the quiet room, focused and attentive. Bell steps forward and firmly announces that he has a request. The massive double doors swing open, revealing a blinding white light. A cheerful girl twirls with excitement in the sunlit hall while a boy looks on. A girl, overjoyed, marvels at her new room while a boy quietly observes her reaction. A young woman in a pink nightgown collapses face down onto the bed, clearly exhausted. Permission has been granted to move into the main building, which will significantly improve their status. A cheerful girl celebrates her happiness while lying on the bed. A girl notices an injury on her brother's hand and looks up at him with concern. He urgently checks the other person's condition, his hand with the distinctive ring reaching out in alarm. He downplays his injury, explaining it happened at work while his worried companion listens. The young character stares ahead, struggling to endure the pain. A cheerful girl throws her arms up and shouts enthusiastically. He expresses his gratitude, visibly relieved after receiving help. A gentle pat on the head signals a promise that Syra will be treated better from now on. He steels himself and turns his focus to the future. Haunted by the memory of a future attack that threatens everything, he resolves to uncover the enemy before disaster strikes again. He declares his determination to become the heir. A blonde character steps into the dim room, catching someone quietly painting at an easel. A blonde character kneels in the dim room, showing deference. The room is tense as one person quietly paints while the other sits in silence, avoiding eye contact. A character silently paints a mountainous landscape with focused attention. A character solemnly announces that Bell will be enrolling in Athena. A tense discussion unfolds as a shadowy figure proposes eliminating the new competitor for the heir position. A calm yet resolute figure orders everyone to stop interfering. A hand forcefully slams chopsticks onto the table, signaling determination. One character warns another that someone is not a threat at the moment but could become one. A calculating figure observes from the shadows, considering how another's increasing power could serve their own interests. Two figures stand before a massive, ominous barrier, preparing to face what lies beyond. A hand pushes into the swirling purple surface, triggering a mysterious reaction. A young man reacts with visible anxiety as he processes unexpected and distressing news. A character hides part of their face with their hand, smirking with a sinister intent. A menacing figure with red eyes and a twisted smile declares their intent to destroy things once they are complete. Bell hesitantly agrees under pressure, sweat beading on his tense face. A concerned figure decides to intervene, believing it is too dangerous to leave Bell alone. A young man is recognized for possessing multiple divine arms and defeating a B-rank paladin at a remarkably young age. A resolute figure in a blue coat moves swiftly down the hallway, preparing to strike. Bell sits alone in the vast hall, gripping his sword tightly as sunlight streams in. The protagonist acknowledges the urgent need for unique abilities possessed by B-rank paladins and higher. He sits on the ground, firmly gripping the sword as he resolves to test his abilities before enrolling in Athena. He considers the daunting task of hunting numerous high-rank monsters. A shadowy figure steps through the glowing doorway while someone silently observes from the darkness. Bell peers intently through the window, spotting a suspicious figure outside. A determined figure steps confidently through the stone archway, entering the arena. A young man in a blue uniform calls out respectfully to someone off-panel. Bell pauses, puzzled, as he reacts to an unexpected presence. Bell confronts Zane in the courtyard, demanding to know his intentions. A blonde-haired character bows apologetically to the blue-haired boy, expressing regret for a past incident. A young man in a blue uniform bows and apologizes for drawing his blade at the Duke's son, despite following orders. Bell reconsiders his opinion about the attendant, and assures everyone that he doesn't mind. A blonde character in a blue outfit bows deeply, expressing gratitude for being shown mercy. One character signals the start of a new, more pressing conversation, prompting the other to react with curiosity. A hand grips the ornate sword tightly, signaling readiness for an impending confrontation. An invitation is extended to join a monster subjugation mission. He reacts with surprise upon hearing about a task. A young man informs the group that Jin-sama and the paladins have plans for another task. A serious-looking blonde character earnestly requests assistance after expressing admiration for the other's past performance. Belle grows suspicious of Jin's attendance request and resolves to stay cautious as he prepares to join. Belle stands firm in the courtyard and accepts the challenge. A blonde character bows deeply, expressing sincere gratitude to Belle. With a malicious glint in their eyes, the scheming character prepares to use the task to get rid of their rival. Belle looks up and asks about their next destination. One character reveals the existence of a remote place in Meldia called Ithaca to the other. He pauses, trying to remember what he knows about Ithaca. Realizing an opportunity, the protagonist devises a plan to increase his mana in Ithaca. A legendary item called ambrosia is introduced, known for permanently increasing mana when consumed. A horse-drawn carriage moves steadily along a quiet country road. Sitting on the bench, the two quietly consider a shortcut to B-rank that avoids fighting countless monsters. Belle sits in silence, weighed down by the knowledge that there is only one rare chance to obtain ambrosia. A hidden dungeon entrance is revealed, signaling the start of a dangerous new challenge. He contemplates the possibility of encountering one of the rare hidden dungeons. A threat has appeared near the town of Ithaca. Several figures stroll through the quiet, starlit town square at night. Two people sit across from each other at a table, preparing to review important details. The group learns that their new mission is to defeat the monstrous leviathans. A blond young man urgently announces that multiple powerful C-rank monsters have been confirmed and insists they must be dealt with immediately. As evening settles, the group decides to postpone their plans and rest before starting fresh the next day. He stands up from the table and reluctantly agrees to leave for his room. One character watches in irritation as the other ascends the stairs and leaves. A blonde character silently relishes the thought of someone's impending doom. Someone plans to disguise a murder as an accident during tomorrow's task, while a young person lies dead in a pool of blood. A character plots confidently to eliminate a young rival they consider weak. As night falls, the house stands illuminated, hinting that something is about to happen. Belle quietly opens the window and peers inside, making sure not to wake anyone. Belle summons a glowing shield surrounded by blue energy. Green wind magic swirls around Belle's hands as he summons its power. The protagonist activates a glowing hoverboard and rides it indoors. Riding a flying board, the protagonist heads deeper into the monster forest to find the hidden dungeon containing ambrosia. A determined figure descends into a hidden dungeon atop a glowing green shard, certain no one else knows of its existence. A surge of energy blasts forward, tearing through the darkness with overwhelming force. A determined figure steps forward, signaling the start of decisive action. Belle stands over the shattered mask as mist rises in the dark forest. Belle approaches the massive, ominous tree and stands tensely before its dark opening. Belle slowly enters the dark cave with his sword ready, alert for any danger. Belle approaches a glowing green portal embedded in the rocky wall, drawn by its mysterious energy. Spotting the objective in the darkness, the protagonist looks up with a confident smile. Dungeon gates of different colors indicate their rank, with blue signifying an A-rank dungeon. The protagonist approaches the glowing green gate, preparing to enter the B-rank dungeon and earn a corresponding ambrosia. A glowing green potion appears, suspended in a cosmic void. Belle approaches the massive glowing artifact, anticipating a significant increase in mana. The protagonist prepares to confront the dungeon boss to clear the dungeon. A hooded figure blocks the younger man from entering the glowing dungeon, recalling how he was once stopped for being too weak. Resolving to face the challenge, he steps forward with determination. He refuses to let fear stop him and stands his ground. A hand reaches into the crackling green energy, activating a mysterious power. Fueled by determination, he vows to grow stronger in front of the mystical gateway. Belle fiercely clashes swords with a heavily armored opponent in the dim corridor. Belle blocks a powerful sword strike with unwavering determination. A flaming blue-headed armored knight advances with a drawn sword, ready to confront an enemy. A headless, glowing armored figure charges forward, sword raised for a powerful attack. A colossal energy slash tears through the battlefield, unleashing destructive force. Belle blocks a powerful strike with his glowing sword, sparks flying from the impact. He lunges forward, sword raised, preparing to unleash a decisive attack. Belle smashes his glowing sword into the armored opponent, shattering the helmet with a powerful blow. Belle leaps down from above, launching an aggressive attack at the armored opponent. Belle clenches his teeth and steels himself, refusing to back down under pressure. A surge of blue energy erupts from his outstretched hand as he unleashes a powerful magical attack. A massive, lightning-charged hammer is summoned and raised high as energy surges through the scene. Belle slams his weapon down with tremendous force, releasing a surge of energy. A headless armored figure with a blue flaming head appears, brandishing its sword and shield. He realizes that none of their physical attacks can break through the enemy's armor. A determined fighter charges at the armored opponent, initiating a sudden attack. Belle readies his glowing sword, preparing to strike. A determined figure launches a powerful magic attack in midair. The attacker lands a devastating blow with a glowing weapon, sending the armored opponent reeling. A heavily armored figure struggles to withstand a powerful magic attack. He evaluates the unfamiliar monster and determines it is at least C rank. Belle staggers as he is struck by a powerful blow from the armored opponent's glowing sword. Belle, realizing he is at a disadvantage, urgently searches for a way to turn the situation around. The protagonist studies the armored knight's shield, searching for a potential weakness to exploit. A surge of glowing energy suddenly bursts from his hand, leaving him visibly stunned. A determined fighter charges forward and unleashes a powerful mana-charged fire bullet at a glowing blue armored opponent. A hand activates a powerful weapon, unleashing its energy. The mechanical cannon unleashes a powerful energy blast, marking the beginning of a devastating attack. The knight surges forward through blue energy, sword and shield ready for battle. Bell narrows his eyes and begins a tense countdown, preparing to make his move. A surge of blue energy bursts from the armored figure's chest as he unleashes a powerful attack. The armored figure raises a flaming sword and brings it crashing down in a fierce, blazing strike. A glowing magical attack is unleashed at the armored opponent charging with a sword. A gun unleashes a powerful, explosive shot. A blazing energy beam crashes down as the shield bearer stands firm, deflecting the destructive attack. Bell aims a glowing magical gun at his opponent as swirling flames and energy intensify the standoff. An armored figure collapses to the ground, lifeless, with a smoking wound in its chest and its sword discarded nearby. Startled, he scrambles to the ground and quickly raises his pistol in defense. Bell exhales in relief, lowering the gun from his forehead after surviving the tense encounter. A magical fire attack successfully melts through the barrier, confirming the character's suspicion. Breathless after his narrow victory, the protagonist surveys the fading remains of the armored monster and braces for an even tougher opponent ahead. The protagonist cautiously approaches the glowing potion, intrigued by its mysterious energy in the special dungeon. The protagonist introduces the mythic drink, a rare item from monsters that restores both stamina and mana. The protagonist regains strength by drinking the glowing potion and prepares to continue forward. A determined fighter strikes a cloaked enemy midair with a powerful sword attack. Bell releases a massive energy blast toward the shadowy enemy. Bell unleashes a devastating electrified attack with his massive weapon, sending energy bursting outward. A figure steps forward onto the cobblestone path, breaking the tense silence. Bell stands before the massive, glowing green door, ready to confront whatever lies beyond. Bell wonders what kind of opponent he will face next. He reaches out and tests the glowing barrier with his hand. Bell moves cautiously down a mist-filled hallway lined with glowing doors. The protagonist enters and surveys a mysterious, glowing arena, realizing its true nature. He freezes in place, his face tense with anxiety as he processes the sudden realization. Bell stands resolutely before the mystical door, confronting the menacing red-shadowed figure. After reincarnating, the protagonist prepares to attempt something for the first time in this new life. Overwhelmed by the pressure, he feels his anxiety intensify. A powerful presence steps forward, radiating overwhelming pressure. A menacing armored figure with glowing red eyes emerges from swirling energy, signaling a new threat. A character unleashes a surge of red energy from one eye, signaling a sudden burst of power. A dark armored figure channels ominous red energy at the center of a glowing ritual circle. With unwavering confidence, the protagonist steps forward and confronts the boss of the area. The protagonist steps forward, facing a heavily armored challenger in the grand chamber as a duel is about to begin. Bell stands alert in the dim room, gripping a scroll as he prepares for a confrontation. A towering armored knight with glowing red eyes steps forward, gripping a massive sword in a menacing display. An armored figure lifts a massive, glowing sword as ominous energy begins to surge around them. He braces himself as a threat rapidly approaches from above. An armored figure with glowing red eyes grabs Bell's arm in a sudden confrontation. A powerful force smashes through, shattering the scene with chaotic energy. Bell leaps back with his sword as an attack crashes into the ground where he stood. A massive energy-infused strike crashes down as the protagonist braces himself for the impact. He narrowly dodges a deadly attack, realizing he would have been finished if it had landed. Bell stands before a towering armored enemy with glowing red eyes, ready to confront the threat. The protagonist swiftly leaps into the air to evade a deadly sword strike from the armored opponent. With unwavering resolve, he calls out for Caliban. A character grips the hilt and draws a glowing, ornate sword, ready for action. Bell leaps from above and slams his glowing sword into the monster, delivering a decisive blow. An armored figure unleashes a surge of dark energy beneath a fiery sky. Bell narrowly evades a powerful strike from a heavily armored opponent. A dark armored figure unleashes a blue energized sword strike as Bell braces himself to withstand the blow. A determined figure sheathes a glowing sword and draws a mysterious pistol, ready to switch tactics. With unwavering resolve, Bell charges up a fiery magical attack to confront the threat as he did before. As the countdown begins, he fires a glowing weapon at the armored enemy. Startled and sweating, the protagonist reacts urgently to an unexpected situation. A decisive shot is fired at the armored enemy as energy erupts around them. A hand fires an ornate, glowing gun, unleashing a powerful shot. Bell unleashes a powerful, glowing energy attack with urgency. A character fires a fiery weapon, unleashing a powerful blast at the enemy. A devastating blast of fiery energy strikes a figure in the chest. A powerful armored enemy unleashes a devastating attack as Bell stands his ground, weapon at the ready. A menacing armored figure radiates dark energy from his chest plate, unleashing a surge of ominous power. Bell is stunned to discover that his opponent possesses magic resistance. An armored figure slams their weapon down as Bell braces himself for the attack. An armored figure unleashes a devastating sword strike engulfed in blue energy. A character glares forward with glowing blue eyes and calls out the name. Achilles! Bell braces behind his glowing shield as a powerful blast crashes into him. A warrior braces behind a glowing shield as an armored opponent swings a massive sword down at him. Bell braces himself, his eyes full of determination as he prepares for the confrontation ahead. Bell raises his shield just in time as the armored opponent charges forward with full force. Bell braces himself as a colossal shadowy figure prepares to attack in the rune-marked arena. An armored figure lifts a dark sword overhead, preparing to strike. Bell braces himself, preparing to confront the imminent threat. A massive surge of energy crashes down as a masked figure with a glowing eye unleashes a devastating attack. A heavily armored figure bursts through the smoke in front of the ornate blue door as blood spatters overhead. Charging through the mist, he rushes straight at the armored enemy. Unable to break through the enemy's armor due to low mana, the protagonist urgently searches for a solution. Crouching in the thick mist, Bell hides while watching for danger. A surge of intense energy explodes in the sky, scattering clouds in every direction. He focuses intensely, sweat running down his face as the tension mounts. A gigantic, energy-charged sword crashes down from the sky. Bell strains as he blocks a powerful attack with his glowing shield. A powerful sword strike sends a blazing arc of energy through the air. With sweat trickling down his face, Bell steels himself as he prepares for the imminent confrontation. Bell realizes too late that the enemy's sword attack was only a distraction for a more dangerous move. An armored figure drives a massive sword into the ground, unleashing a surge of energy and light. Bell staggers back, clutching his jaw in agony after taking a sudden blow. One figure stands over another who has collapsed in a cloud of smoke after being struck down. The armored figure unleashes a devastating attack, its glowing red eyes fixed on its target. A crushing blow lands with explosive force, shaking the entire scene. Bell charges through the mist-filled arena and launches an aggressive attack against the armored opponent. A glass vial crashes to the ground, spilling its glowing blue liquid. Bell recovers using his last mythic drink, but realizes he has no more left. A gauntlet hand seizes the hilt of a massive sword, ready for action as tension fills the air. Cornered on the mystical blue-tiled floor, the protagonist steels himself to take a desperate gamble against the armored knight. The protagonist reveals his heaviest divine armor, Achilles, preparing for the next confrontation. A determined fighter charges at an armored opponent, gripping a weapon and shield as a confrontation begins. With a surge of power, the protagonist swings his wind-charged shield forward, using it as a weapon instead of just for defense. Energy explodes from the protagonist as he unleashes a devastating attack, shattering the ground with swirling light. Swirling green energy surrounds the weapon as it is empowered for a powerful throw. A green glowing shield blocks a fierce blow from a shadowy armored attacker. He spins around in alarm, startled by an unexpected threat. An armored figure brings down a massive axe with overwhelming force. A black armored figure unleashes a powerful sword strike as another person desperately tries to evade. Bell makes a frantic attempt to dodge as a massive attack crashes down toward him. A burst of energy destroys the shield, leaving the protagonist in shock. With energy surging around him, the protagonist charges forward to strike. An armored figure is sent reeling by a devastating, glowing attack. Bracing himself, the character charges forward toward the swirling dark energy. Bell charges anxiously at the towering adversary as blue energy crackles around them. A hand seizes the glowing blue energy blade as light flares in the background. Bell leaps into the air and brings his massive war hammer down toward the horned armored foe. An imposing armored figure with glowing red eyes emerges, radiating a menacing presence. Bell crashes down from above, unleashing a devastating lightning attack on the armored beast. A powerful figure crashes into the ground, unleashing a devastating shockwave. He exhales in relief, tension lingering as he stands beneath the starry sky. After taking a risk with his weapon, the fighter lands a powerful blow against the armored opponent. Kneeling in the blue-lit room, the protagonist prepares to strike at the enemy hidden inside the armor. A heavily armored figure channels dark energy, clenching a gauntlet fist as power surges around him. An armored knight with glowing red eyes raises a large sword and advances menacingly toward Bell. He realizes the challenge is not over yet. An armored figure stomps onto the cracked, blue-lit floor with force. The armored figure removes its helmet and stands over its discarded armor, gripping a giant sword. A determined figure seizes the hilt of the formidable sword in the darkness. A hand seizes a large, glowing key crackling with blue energy, signaling the start of something ominous. A figure draws a large, glowing sword, preparing for action. A tense figure grips a large sword, preparing to face an imminent threat in the smoky gloom. Bell stands frozen in shock as he processes the alarming realization. A masked figure descends rapidly, swinging a blade in a fierce attack. He stares ahead in shock as something moves with incredible speed. Bell channels his energy into his sword and launches a devastating attack. Bell bursts forward at high speed, smashing through debris. Overwhelmed by agony, he screams and throws his head back in pain. Bell crashes to the ground in front of the shattered wall, gripping his sword tightly. A massive clawed foot slams down, announcing the arrival of a monstrous figure. Bell struggles to get up from the ground, visibly exhausted and in pain. An imposing armored figure with a glowing sword steps forward through the smoky darkness. A wounded figure kneels on the cracked floor as an armed opponent looms over, ready to strike. An armored figure raises a sword, threatening the kneeling blue-haired person in a tense standoff. A character collapses in defeat, head bowed under the dark sky. A glowing figure brings a massive weapon down toward the cowering character. Two armored fighters collide with immense force, unleashing a surge of purple energy. Bell glares and threatens his opponent while activating the power of his glowing gauntlet. A menacing armored figure with glowing red eyes emerges from the darkness. A gloved hand summons a glowing magical sword, unleashing its power. Swords collide as the two warriors engage in a fierce battle, blue energy crackling around them. With his eye transformed and power unleashed, the true battle begins. Bell clashes swords with a hooded, armored opponent, sending a burst of energy through the air. A masked figure swings their sword, releasing a surge of energy toward the advancing opponent. A powerful combatant unleashes swirling energy slashes, striking down multiple shadowy figures on the glowing blue floor. The robotic enemy surges forward at incredible speed, wielding its sword with newfound agility. With a burst of speed, the protagonist lunges forward, wielding the glowing sword. A determined fighter charges forward with a glowing sword, launching a final attack against the robotic warrior. A cursed arm pulses with dark energy, signaling the release of its ominous power. Bell charges forward and unleashes a decisive sword strike at his shadowy opponent. He recoils in shock, eyes wide and sweat beading on his face. Bell clashes swords with his red-eyed opponent in a fierce burst of energy. A sudden surge of red energy accelerates the threat, catching Bell off guard. Bell swings his glowing sword to block a red energy attack. Bell, desperate and sweating, channels dark energy through his armored arm to resist defeat. Surrounded by ominous energy, Bell grips the cursed sword as dark power surges through him. An intense surge of power erupts as a fierce, red eye glows with a menacing aura. A cloaked figure steps forward in a sinister glow, realizing something crucial. A monstrous, clawed hand crackles with purple energy as a dark power is unleashed. A pivotal decision is made as the offer is accepted, intensifying the foreboding atmosphere. A shadowy figure demands a soul as the price for an unknown exchange. A surge of purple energy bursts from the figure's eye as hidden power is unleashed. Bell unleashes a surge of intense purple energy from the cursed sword, screaming in agony. Overwhelmed by a powerful force, the character begins to lose consciousness as the purple aura intensifies. A warrior channels intense purple energy through his sword, preparing to unleash a powerful attack. Surrounded by swirling purple energy, he demands the power he needs. A white-haired boy taunts his opponent for being weak as he launches a fierce attack. Bell collapses in grief beside the lifeless body, overwhelmed by the loss. Bell glares fiercely at the glowing purple eye, confronting his own weakness. A figure surges with powerful purple energy as the challenge to seize power is declared. A corrupted hand slams into Bell's face, unleashing a surge of violent purple energy. A furious surge of purple energy erupts as the character unleashes his power. Bell braces himself as a monstrous foe lunges at him with a glowing weapon. Dark energy erupts around him as he stands resolute, preparing to unleash his power. Two figures collide in a fierce duel, their weapons clashing amid bursts of explosive energy. Blinding blue energy beams surge across the scene as a powerful attack is unleashed. A desperate fighter unleashes a devastating energy attack at the hooded opponent. Energy surges from his body as he commands a devastating attack. Surging with purple energy, the determined fighter launches a powerful attack at the hooded opponent. Consumed by rage and dark power, he orders his followers to kill everyone. A young girl rushes forward with a joyful smile to greet her brother. Bell looks up as glowing purple energy cracks rapidly spread across his face. Bell clashes swords with a shadowy armored opponent in a tense, fast-paced battle. Bell desperately struggles to block a crushing sword strike from his overpowering opponent. A long-haired character smiles joyfully while holding white flowers. Radiating with intense purple energy, he firmly declares that he is not fighting to kill. He steels himself, declaring his resolve to fight for her protection. Two opponents clash swords fiercely in the center of the glowing, rune-marked arena. Bell, his arm transformed and glowing, forcefully clashes swords with his opponent as he demands their power. Bell raises his shield and activates a powerful magical barrier. Bell leaps forward and strikes down at the enemy with a powerful sword attack. A mysterious, hooded figure emerges from swirling purple energy and offers to lend their power. A boy faces a menacing entity that demands his soul in exchange for power. A tense standoff unfolds as one fighter channels purple energy into his sword, preparing to face his advancing opponent in the glowing arena. Bell lunges through a surge of energy, brandishing his glowing sword as he launches into battle. A red glowing monster charges forward at high speed. A forceful, glowing attack collides with an opponent amid a rapid exchange of blows and sparks. Bell slashes through several glowing-eyed enemies in the heat of battle. A monstrous figure with glowing red eyes and a forehead gem unleashes a fierce attack. Bell deflects a powerful attack from the monstrous opponent amid a surge of magical energy. Bell swiftly dodges an incoming attack, taunting his opponent for being too slow. Bell charges forward and clashes with the monstrous enemy, his glowing sword radiating intense energy. A towering golem with glowing red eyes emerges ominously in the night sky. Bell raises his glowing sword, channeling energy as he prepares to unleash a powerful attack. A hooded figure unleashes a massive beam of blue energy into the sky. A sealed artifact splits open, releasing an intense blue light. Surrounded by a glowing purple aura, Bell channels a mysterious power through the armored gauntlet. The protagonist stands over two defeated enemies, radiating a powerful purple aura. Dark tendrils suddenly envelop the shadowy figures underwater. Collapsed on the ground, the protagonist realizes his defeat as ominous shadows and purple energy close in. A gauntlet hand activates the glowing artifact as energy crackles through the air. Kneeling and drenched in sweat, he gathers his strength with magic energy after barely regaining control in a fierce battle. Sitting beside the smoldering figure, he reflects uneasily on the risk of using Aegis. Kneeling in the dim blue light, the protagonist cautiously reaches for the glowing green bottle. A hand triumphantly seizes the glowing ambrosia vial. He prepares to drink the mana-enhancing potion, hoping it will unlock new abilities for his divine arms. He hesitates, staring anxiously at the glowing bottle of ambrosia. With determination, he drinks the glowing green potion for the sake of the future. After a tense moment, he stands alone in the dim chamber and catches his breath. He senses a surge of mana as bluish energy swirls around his hands. Overwhelmed by a surge of power, the character realizes he will advance to B rank instantly. He freezes as a sudden, critical realization strikes him. Clutching his chest, he screams in agony as blood pours from his wound. Clutching his chest, the character collapses to the ground in agony as blood drips around him. Bell kneels and draws a powerful, glowing sword that radiates blue light. Bell recoils in terror as something shocking unfolds before him. Bell falls backward, mortally wounded as the ground shatters and blue light flares around him. A massive, glowing sword crashes down toward the motionless figure inside the magic circle. He steels his resolve, his intense blue eye reflecting unwavering determination. Bell sits on the ground, quickly regaining his composure after being startled in the glowing blue surroundings. The protagonist regains consciousness, kneeling in the center of a glowing magic circle and looking around in confusion. Standing resolutely, the protagonist steps into the center of the glowing magic circle to begin the ritual. A startled young man regains consciousness in a glowing magic circle as a hooded figure addresses him. A cloaked figure appears within a glowing magic circle and confronts the protagonist. A hooded figure appears alone beneath the dark night sky. Bell looks up in shock, urgently calling out for his master. Sitting alone in the shadows, he rests against the wall while guarding the glowing sword. An armored figure with pink hair sits in silence, gripping a massive ornate hammer in anticipation of an impending confrontation. A hooded figure sits alone on a stone throne, channeling ominous purple energy through their glowing hands. A knight kneels in silence, gripping his sword as he contemplates in the dimly lit chamber. A hooded figure welcomes the newcomers as three armored individuals observe from their thrones in a shadowy chamber. He looks up, startled by something unexpected above him. A hooded figure leads the young man through a glowing portal into the soul realm. A hooded figure stands before shadowy figures on thrones and offers a foreboding welcome. Two figures are summoned before a tribunal in the soul realm, standing on glowing platforms under the gaze of imposing judges. An older man with an eye patch expresses his emotions about reuniting with his disciple, who stands before him holding a large green shield. An energetic young man greets his master enthusiastically after a long absence. A serious elderly man with an eye patch is introduced as the one who gave Avalon. The original owner of Achilles is revealed, standing resolutely with the legendary green shield. A man steps forward with open arms inside a glowing magic circle, eager to reunite with the cloaked figure. Perplexed, the protagonist questions how he is recognized despite having traveled back in time before meeting anyone. A mysterious overseer reveals that he has witnessed every moment of the protagonist's life, death, and reincarnation. Bell hesitates as he questions whether he should proceed from this point. A guide reveals that this mystical chamber within Avalon is where the 5 divine arms are kept. Several impaled figures are displayed atop pillars in a cathedral, revealing the grim fate of the successors. Stunned, he realizes the souls of the successors are involved. He demands to know where his master's body is as they stand within the glowing magic circle. An older man spends his retirement chopping wood in seclusion deep in the mountains. A mysterious older man reveals a legendary sword called Avalon, explaining it is a divine armament bound to its possessor's soul. The older man reveals that when Avalon was brought back in time, he lost it in the present. The older man explains that his consciousness is now connected to his counterpart in this world. He demands to know if his return to the past was caused by Avalon's powers. Two figures stand within a glowing magical circle, discussing the limits of Avalon's power and confirming it cannot turn back time. Bell stands in a glowing circle, troubled as he tries to piece together what happened in the past. The older man acknowledges the boy's efforts in protecting his younger sister. A supportive figure gently pats Bell on the head, offering him praise for his actions. An older man lunges menacingly at Bell, who desperately begs him to stop. The confused protagonist demands to know why he was suddenly brought to this place. An older man begins to explain something important. A single foot steps forward on the glowing blue surface, signaling a determined advance. An impatient figure abruptly interrupts the ongoing conversation. A confident man with reddish hair steps forward, declaring his intention to join the confrontation. A confident man is introduced as Avalon's second successor. The younger man interrupts by ruffling the older man's hair just as their conversation is cut short. A red-haired man teasingly grabs the face of an older man with an eye patch. Belle steps into the glowing magic circle where two figures stand, one supporting the other who is clearly injured. A confident man with red hair steps forward and introduces himself to the sixth successor. Belle silently contemplates his next move. The red-haired man performs a mysterious gesture in front of the young blue-haired boy in the glowing blue room. A character reacts with playful surprise, raising his hand against a bright, starry background. Belle looks up in shock as something unexpected happens. A red-haired man bursts into laughter after tricking his blue-haired opponent, who stands confused by the accusation. Inside a glowing magic circle, three figures mock the sixth successor while a fourth approaches with a large hammer. A pink-haired woman calls out someone for hesitating while gripping her large weapon confidently. One figure tries to lighten the tense mood by making a joke to the group as they gather around the glowing magic circle. A hooded figure sits alone on a shattered throne, silently brooding in isolation. A hooded figure anxiously pleads to be left alone, refusing any interaction. A pink-haired character angrily accuses someone off-panel of enjoying causing trouble. A red-haired man mocks the blue-haired boy in the glowing arcane room, intensifying the tension. A pink-haired character angrily protests after being called a runt. One character steps between the two arguing individuals, urgently pleading for them to stop as tension rises atop a glowing magical circle. A furious pink-haired character confronts the older man and demands to know whose side he is on. A red-haired man shoves his fingers into the older man's mouth, aggressively demanding his loyalty. A red-haired man playfully embarrasses an older man by pinching his cheek, leaving the onlookers surprised and conflicted. Standing on the glowing magic circle, he quietly reflects on the legacy of his renowned predecessors and recalls a past conversation with his master. Three heroes charge at a dark adversary wielding powerful energy. Lounging atop the stone structure, the protagonist impatiently demands that the others get to the point. A young man in ornate armor is introduced as Avalon's first successor, Adam, as his importance to the unfolding events is revealed. A group summons several individuals into a glowing circle to deliver important advice. Surprised and curious, the protagonist asks for guidance while standing among glowing blue runes. Belle listens uneasily as he is warned not to unlock the abilities of the divine arms. Belle freezes in shock as he processes the unexpected revelation. He explains that divine arms with unlocked abilities emit a massive amount of mana. Blue energy and lightning surge around him as he clutches his chest, struggling to withstand the overwhelming power. He realizes the pain he felt was caused by the overwhelming power within him. A serious armored figure warns that the powers cannot be unlocked until adulthood. A clenched fist tightens as tension and resolve build. Standing at the center of a glowing magic circle, he refuses to stop and pushes forward with determination. Belle vows to gain power to protect his little sister. An armored figure stands atop a pedestal, surveying the hall with a commanding presence. The armored character steps forward with determination onto the blue-lit floor. With a surge of energy, he charges forward, intent on crushing his opponent. He freezes in shock as a sudden realization hits him. Belle quickly raises his sword to defend against the incoming attack. A swift ambush catches the protagonist off guard as an attacker strikes from behind. A glowing sword pierces Belle's upper torso while another person silently watches from behind. He sternly confronts someone, expressing disappointment at their immaturity. An opponent attempts a surprise attack, but it is blocked. A knight in ornate armor closes his eyes and gathers intense blue energy as he prepares for battle. The mentor acknowledges the boy's growth after their intense training bouts in the glowing arena. He accepts the challenge with determination. A knight in shining armor presents a glowing sword to the group, insisting they use it first. Four characters appear in close-up, each displaying a focused and determined expression as they prepare to confront the situation ahead. He asks if this means he has finally been accepted. Belle advises that managing just one ability at a time should be possible. Belle grants permission to unlock Caliban's B-rank ability as radiant light erupts from the sword. The leader assures the group that the remaining abilities, including the A-rank ones, will be distributed at the appropriate time. Belle inspects the mystical sword, contemplating its A-rank abilities. With a determined expression, he announces that he will unlock them immediately. He smiles with calm confidence, ready for what comes next. The red-haired man ruffles the blue-haired boy's hair and wishes him good luck. The older man instructs the armored young woman to protect her little sister. The anxious figure sits alone in the shadows, deliberately distancing himself from the others. A group of adventurers pledges to provide unseen protection as they stand in a cathedral-like hall. Belle steps forward with determination, announcing his departure as he grips his sword. He realizes he has returned to the dungeon. He notices his pain has vanished and senses a mysterious new power within him. Belle eagerly reveals the glowing sword and decides to use it in tomorrow's task. The protagonist confidently draws his glowing sword and reveals Caliban's unique ability. A lone ship travels quietly across the open sea. Two figures stand ready on a ship as it sails into the dawn, beginning their journey. Two figures stand on the ship as one informs the other that they will soon reach the area where the Leviathans appear. Belle draws his glowing sword and prepares to fight. He smirks with quiet confidence, ready for what comes next. A hooded, masked figure grips a staff tightly, preparing to defend or strike under the dusky sky. A hooded figure stays hidden in the shadows, carefully concealing their identity. Standing on the deck at sunset, the protagonist notices something unusual about the C-rank Leviathans. On the boat at sunset, one character considers Reiza's strength and concludes that he can handle the task alone. Two figures sail into the sunset, one quietly worrying about the other's mysterious intentions. He keeps his gaze fixed on his opponent, determined not to lose focus. The ship glides through the dark waters as the two on deck confirm they've reached their destination. Leaning over the boat's railing, Bell quietly takes in the calm and peaceful sea. A character draws his sword and prepares to confront his opponent on the ship's deck. Bell's eyes narrow as he steels himself for the challenge ahead. He studies the scene in silence, weighing his next move. He decides they must lure their enemies out to gain the advantage. A single drop of blood splashes onto the still blue water, breaking the silence. A serious character warns that the smell of blood will soon attract dangerous creatures. A monstrous figure with glowing red eyes emerges from the darkness, revealing a new threat. Two monstrous sea serpents burst from the water, as more glowing eyes appear in the darkness. The group discovers that the enemy forces are far larger than they initially expected. Bell confidently suggests splitting up to quickly defeat the C-rank enemies. A resolute blonde character firmly refuses to allow the action. Bell glares defiantly as he challenges the restriction. A blonde character grins menacingly and threatens their opponent with imminent death. A surge of blue energy hurtles forward, tearing through the darkness with explosive speed. A glowing blue energy rope snaps around a leg, instantly restraining the target in mid-motion. Startled, Bell looks up as something unexpected happens off-panel. A glowing rope swiftly wraps around the protagonist's leg, catching him off guard as his adversary reveals the trap. Bell charges forward, ready to strike. A character with spiky purple hair swings a spiked staff, preparing to strike under the night sky. Bell glares angrily and shouts an accusation. A blonde character urgently commands someone to take action. A character shouts an affirmation and immediately rushes into action. A powerful attack sends one character flying violently through the air. Bell is blasted through the air by a powerful magical force from the glowing crystal. Bell strikes the water below with a glowing whip-like weapon from the raised platform. A fierce-looking character with purple hair swings their weapon down, preparing a decisive attack. A massive blue energy blast erupts, surging forward with overwhelming force. Zane blocks the enemy's path by summoning a barrier of ice spikes with a glowing whip. Bell sinks deeper underwater, dragged by a crystal as sea serpent-like creatures close in. Trapped underwater, the character is impaled through the leg by a massive ice spike, struggling desperately to break free. A blonde character leans over the ledge, threatening someone below with the fate of being eaten by leviathans. One figure announces that Bell Catastrophe has died in the line of duty and declares that the remaining task is to deal with the monsters. A boy thrashes beneath the water, desperately clutching his throat as he fights to breathe. Bell lunges forward and strikes at the armored opponent's weak point with unwavering determination. Underwater, he raises the glowing artifact and summons the power of wind. The narration explains that Achilles generates wind directly, creating its own layer of air. Underwater, the protagonist thrashes desperately as green energy swirls around him and bubbles rise to the surface. Bursting through the water's surface, he desperately gasps for air. Sitting on the ground with his shield, Bell realizes that both Reiza and Spencer are plotting against him. A character observes in amazement as a large portion of the water's surface freezes and dark shapes move beneath the ice. A greater threat emerges, overshadowing previous concerns. The protagonist braces himself with a large shield, surrounded by countless shadowy tendrils in a tense standoff. The injured character gathers his strength and prepares to reach for the glowing blue crystal. Amid pouring rain, the protagonist quickly lifts the large crystal, determined to protect it. With a surge of strength, the protagonist smashes through the crystal barrier and regains his freedom. He suddenly notices his ankle bleeding heavily. Realizing what went wrong, Bell tenses up and recalls that the incident occurred when Spencer grabbed his leg. Underwater, the monsters spot him and begin to attack. With a surge of determination, Bell summons the glowing weapon Caliban. Facing overwhelming odds, the protagonist braces himself to attack the advancing serpent-like monster. Underwater, he unsheathes a glowing sword, revealing his power for the first time since reincarnation. He unleashes his unique ability, activating the glowing sword with unwavering focus. A massive sea creature lunges toward Bell, threatening to devour him. A radiant sword of light materializes in the darkness. Armored and resolute, Bell braces himself as the dragon unleashes a torrent of fire. Several magical swords shoot through the air in a burst of power. A massive monster is struck by a glowing sword as blasts of energy rain down. Standing atop a glowing platform above the water, the protagonist activates a long-unused power as energy beams surge around him. Glowing swords appear and encircle Bell as he unleashes the Starblade formation. Bell taunts his opponent and prepares to attack. 3 monstrous sea serpents surge through the turbulent waters, launching an aggressive attack. A combatant activates a defensive formation as magical projectiles rush toward him on the floating platform. Blades of glowing light cascade from the sky, striking at the serpent-like monsters below. A warrior unleashes Caliban's Starblade formation, sending radiant slashes toward the surrounding serpent-like monsters. Several glowing swords emerge and strike the massive serpent underwater. The protagonist charges forward with his glowing sword, threatening his enemies with a bold attack. A determined character in a blue uniform launches a powerful attack with a glowing, golden weapon. The protagonist delivers a powerful blow, shattering the giant beast with a surge of energy and ice. Two figures stand on the shattered ice beside the defeated sea monster as time continues to pass. A blonde character smirks, convinced that Belle is already dead. A purple-haired character enthusiastically praises Reiser for his impressive actions. Two figures stand on icy ground surrounded by the frozen bodies of defeated monsters, one confidently dismissing the other's astonishment at the overwhelming victory. The young man warns his companion to stay close if they want to survive. A determined character rushes into action, wielding a glowing staff to assist. A character stomps the ground, shattering the ice beneath their foot. Belle looks down in confusion, startled by something unexpected in the glowing mist. A devastating blow launches the blue-haired figure across the battlefield. The protagonist reacts with shock to unexpected news. A massive black object crashes down and shatters the ice field with explosive force. A massive black sphere crashes into the icy ground, shattering the surface near the ship as two figures struggle to avoid the destruction. Sensing sudden danger, the character grips two glowing batons and braces for what's coming. A lone figure stands ready as a terrifying monster emerges before him. A massive dark sphere smashes through the icy surface, sending a ship and two figures tumbling amid the chaos. A character recoils in shock as a monstrous Charybdis emerges from the water. A young man grows anxious as he reacts to a difficult situation. A massive energy-infused weapon unleashes a devastating attack through the glowing blue backdrop. Zane is violently knocked into the air by a sudden, overwhelming blow. A lone fighter stands ready on the ship's deck as the massive Charybdis looms before them. Realizing the deadly danger, the protagonist braces himself with heightened caution. A monstrous blue creature with glowing red eyes clenches its fist, preparing to attack. A character releases a massive energy attack that surges forward in a burst of blue light. A fighter descends from above, unleashing a powerful dual-bladed attack with energy projectiles trailing behind. Giant blue tentacles erupt violently into the sky. A determined fighter strikes at the tentacled creature, knowing he must avoid being caught. Belle braces himself to finish the conflict without delay. Empowered by his ability, the protagonist leaps from the ship and charges his divine armament with mana to deliver a decisive blow against the tentacled monster. The protagonist activates two glowing weapons, unleashing their immense power. With unwavering determination, the hero unleashes a devastating aerial attack against the monstrous Charybdis. A character is blasted through the air by a powerful attack. With fierce determination, the protagonist unleashes a powerful, glowing sword attack. Belle unleashes a devastating energy blast that shatters the surroundings. A gigantic shadowy creature emerges from the darkness, revealing its glowing red eye. The monster quickly pulls the Leviathan's body in front of itself to block the attack. Frustrated by the failed attack, the fighter prepares to unleash another strike. A massive blue monster bursts from the ground, catching Belle off guard as he stares up in shock. A massive tentacled monster blasts the protagonist back in a surge of ice and energy. A blonde character leaps from the ship as ice shatters beneath them. A giant sea monster traps the ship among the broken ice in the stormy sea. Two shadowy serpentine creatures with glowing red eyes dive toward the trapped ship. Belle's eyes widen in shock as he reacts to the sudden danger. Belle braces himself as another Leviathan rises from the sea, ready to attack. A fierce combatant leaps across the deck, attacking monstrous sea creatures threatening the ship. A surge of energy tears through the air in a devastating arc. A character in blue is struck by a powerful sword blow, sending blood flying. The protagonist realizes his weapon is meant for single combat, leaving him vulnerable against several attackers. Unable to attack without stable ground, the protagonist surveys the icy, hazardous waters from the ship. A lone figure braces for battle as two massive sea serpents surge from the water before him. Startled by a sudden threat, a panicked character looks up as blood splatters behind him. With sword and shield ready, Belle launches himself at the enormous sea serpent. Belle looks up in shock as mysterious lights streak across the sky. Belle leaps into the air and strikes several monstrous serpents with a powerful sword swing. One character suddenly appears floating above another, causing shock and disbelief. Belle smiles confidently while gripping his sword and offers to help the person in trouble. A furious character yells in frustration, demanding to know what the other person can do in this situation. A massive sea monster rises before the ship as one character urgently warns the other not to fight it. Belle charges forward with his glowing sword to challenge his opponent. A monstrous blue creature with glowing red eyes and multiple tentacles lunges forward in a sudden attack. The protagonist surges forward on a green crystal board, wielding a glowing sword as golden blades streak toward the enemy. Belle lunges forward with his green shield, blocking a barrage of tentacles and energy beams. A blonde man in a blue outfit is stunned as he witnesses someone unexpectedly wield a powerful ability right after acquiring the divine arms. A stunned observer watches as another unleashes a barrage of glowing, feather-like projectiles, demonstrating overwhelming power. Belle charges at his opponent with a glowing sword, threatening to cut him up and feed him to the fishes. A gigantic sea monster charges forward through the water. A monstrous creature fires a massive, glowing blue energy blast. Belle leaps through the air and strikes the ship below with a powerful, glowing sword attack. A character panics as a sudden threat approaches, endangering the entire ship. Bell charges forward with his glowing sword, preparing to reveal his own trump card. A determined figure activates a powerful magical formation in the sky. Bell unleashes a blinding beam of golden energy from his weapon as he activates his powerful ability. Staring upward in disbelief, the protagonist reacts as the swords unexpectedly fuse together. A fierce energy blast erupts from above as Bell attacks with overwhelming power. A massive surge of energy tears through the sea, striking at the monstrous creature beneath the ship. Bell brings down the glowing sword in a powerful attack. A character is hurled backward as a massive force slams them into a large object. Bell leaps down and strikes forcefully with his glowing weapon. Bell shouts a fierce challenge at the monstrous enemy, refusing to back down. Bell brings down his glowing weapon in a fierce strike against the monstrous enemy. A lone figure stands ready to confront a massive sea monster amid the shattered, ice-filled ocean. A shocked onlooker realizes the young man has single-handedly defeated a powerful Charybdis. Someone reacts in shock to behavior that is far from normal. Standing firmly on the deck with his sword drawn, the protagonist challenges his next opponent. Bell glares forward and vows to get revenge for the earlier trick. One character on the ship assesses that another will soon become a significant threat. A determined young man resolves to eliminate his rival. A blonde man with an eye patch taunts his blue-haired opponent on the ship's deck, boasting about his high B rank and gripping a golden weapon. Standing tall on the platform, Bell boldly challenges his opponent's confidence. One character mocks his opponent for resorting to a sneak attack, escalating the tension between them. The two opponents square off in silence, each bracing for the imminent clash. He lunges forward at high speed, drawing a glowing yellow sword and preparing to strike. Bell charges forward with his glowing sword, launching an aggressive attack. A young man in a blue robe lunges forward and draws his glowing sword, ready to attack. Bell charges forward and swings his glowing sword in a fierce attack. Two opponents' swords collide with force, sending sparks flying across the battlefield. Bell swiftly parries a powerful sword strike in a burst of rapid motion. A powerful punch lands squarely in an opponent's midsection, forcing a pained reaction in the middle of the fight. Energy surges upward as Bell channels power into his sword for a decisive attack. He grips his sword tightly and braces himself to face a powerful opponent. A furious figure charges forward with a glowing dagger, attacking in a fit of rage. Bell charges ahead with glowing swords, commanding his team to intercept the incoming attack. A radiant sword hurtles down from the sky, crackling with energy. With a fierce glare, he lunges forward to attack. A young man in a blue uniform forcefully clashes his glowing weapon against an opponent's amidst a surge of energy. A blonde figure lunges to attack the blue-haired character from behind, aiming to exploit his blind spot. A determined hand seizes the glowing, ornate rod as energy surges outward. A fierce attack bursts forth as a glowing weapon strikes with overwhelming force. A surge of explosive energy erupts, tearing through the darkness. A young man taunts his opponent while gripping a decorated staff. Two opponents ready their glowing swords on the ship's deck, each preparing for a difficult battle. Mana drains rapidly as the protagonist relentlessly pushes forward, determined to keep fighting. Bell steadies himself and raises his last sword, preparing to unleash the Starblade formation. A determined swordsman charges forward, declaring his intent to finish the fight with a powerful attack. An attacker leaps down with a glowing sword, forcing the defender below to brace for impact. A swift, glowing weapon strike lands, forcing one fighter to recoil in pain. A character unleashes a powerful attack, swinging a glowing weapon with explosive force. One character slashes another with a powerful sword strike, knocking him back with overwhelming force. Startled by sudden danger, the protagonist screams in terror. One fighter lunges with a glowing sword, frustrated by his opponent's superior skill as the other braces to counter. Clutching a glowing weapon, he hesitates to unleash its power, fearing the darkness that threatens to consume him. Someone prepares to make an important decision. A hand seizes the glowing weapon and unleashes its power. He unleashes a relentless barrage of gunfire with both pistols. A man in blue swiftly dodges gunfire and charges forward with his sword. A fierce clash erupts as one fighter blocks with a glowing sword while the other strikes with twin batons. A confident opponent taunts, declaring that the gun's strategy is too slow to succeed. A character unleashes a blast of energy by firing an ornate weapon. Bell charges forward and unleashes a powerful, fiery strike with his glowing magical sword. One fighter accelerates toward his opponent by using the gun's recoil, catching the other off guard. The wounded opponent glares and taunts after receiving only a minor injury. He successfully tricks his opponent and smiles with confidence. A devastating glowing attack strikes the character in the chest, leaving them shocked and wounded. A blonde character recoils in shock as blood splatters in the foreground. A character in a blue uniform staggers back, clutching their abdomen after being struck by a powerful, glowing attack. He suddenly realizes his opponent's true plan, tension rising as the pieces fall into place. Someone steps forward with determination, breaking the tense silence. The protagonist stands over his defeated opponent, confidently declaring victory. Bell calmly tells his opponent to stop trying to kill him. A tense male character stares upward, questioning whether to give up. Despite his injury, the man scoffs at the idea that anyone could become a threat to Jin-sama. A furious man in blue threatens to kill his opponent. One figure confronts the other on the ship's deck, demanding to know the reason for such unwavering loyalty to Jin. Breathing heavily, he stands over the blood-stained ground, exhausted from the recent struggle. Bell stands over the defeated opponent, catching his breath as smoke and fire fill the sky. A wounded character collapses to their knees, struggling to stay conscious. Battered and exhausted, the character collapses on the blood-stained battlefield. A figure steps onto the blood-stained floor, entering the aftermath of violence. An imposing figure stands over a fallen, injured youth as the sky burns ominously behind them. A shadowy figure accuses the mercenary of killing 300 people. Bloodied and exhausted, the man struggles to rise under the burning sky after being knocked down. A character pours a glowing blue potion onto his chest. Blue liquid is poured from a vessel, heightening the tension. Bell collapses to the ground, injured and surrounded by glowing energy after the attack. A figure with long dark hair asserts control over others as the sun sets behind them. A blond man in a blue coat staggers as a glowing wound erupts in his chest. A determined figure grasps a glowing weapon, preparing to join the fight. With resolve, the young man launches a glowing sword attack, determined to repay a debt. With fierce determination, he unleashes a powerful attack using his glowing, energy-infused weapon. A hand releases a powerful burst of golden energy, unleashing a dramatic attack. Two glowing swords collide with explosive force. Both opponents ready their glowing swords, preparing to duel on the misty deck. The armored young man acknowledges newfound respect for his opponent's knighthood. He raises his glowing sword and rallies everyone to fight at full strength as paladins. An enraged character confronts someone, shouting in anger. An injured young man unleashes a powerful energy blast from a magic scroll. He recognizes the technique being used as the same one he saw earlier. A determined fighter lunges forward, aiming to strike with his energy-charged sword before his opponent can react. Bell unleashes a powerful upward strike at his opponent, filling the air with explosive energy. A character forcefully slams their foot against the ground, initiating a powerful move. With a thunderous crash, one fighter slams into the other, sending them hurtling backward. Realizing too late that it was a trap, the character recoils in shock. With a fierce shout, the injured swordsman lunges forward to deliver his final attack. Alarmed, Bell lunges forward to intervene. With desperation in his eyes, he shouts that this is his last chance. An intense burst of energy shoots downward, signaling the start of a powerful attack. A fierce sword strike lands, leaving the opponent injured and reeling. A wounded man screams in agony as blood bursts from his mouth. A wounded opponent staggers back in shock, unable to believe the swords have survived. He glares forward with determination, taunting his opponent. A hand reveals the sword was never truly destroyed, exposing the deception. The character realizes their opponent had anticipated every move from the very beginning. Shaken by the unexpected skill on display, the character internally questions how their opponent could be so experienced in combat. One figure stands over a collapsed opponent as blue sparkles linger in the air. He narrowly avoids defeat by relying on a hidden advantage. Standing at the edge of the boat, he reflects on his victory over the top B-rank opponent. The protagonist confirms that he has successfully powered up as intended. A lone ship glides steadily across the calm sea. A grand castle stands illuminated beneath the bright sky, establishing its imposing presence. A girl in a pink dress bursts into the room and eagerly calls out. A girl clasps her hands to her chest, visibly anxious as she reacts with concern. A girl in a pink dress stands on the dock, anxiously scanning her surroundings. A young girl calls out hopefully into the empty hallway. A young girl stands in the empty hallway and desperately calls out for her brother. A young girl anxiously wonders why her older brother has not returned home yet. Someone waits anxiously in the hallway, wondering why the task isn't finished yet. A girl pauses in the hallway, noticing an open door ahead. Spotting that the library is open, the girl hurries forward, hoping to find her brother inside. A young girl in a pink dress rushes through a large door. A long-haired figure strides through the dim library toward the girl standing in the radiant doorway. A young girl recoils in shock, clutching her bow as she reacts to an unexpected event. A mysterious figure with red eyes confronts another person under an ominous purple sky. A figure moves purposefully toward the girl at the end of the shadowy library aisle. A mysterious, red-eyed man suddenly appears before the shocked young woman, creating a tense atmosphere. The girl hesitantly gathers her courage and prepares to greet someone despite her fear. A nervous girl hesitantly starts to speak to a tall, silent figure in the dim library. Bell's eyes widen in shock as he reacts to something alarming. A frightened girl recoils in fear as she is startled by something unexpected. A menacing figure towers over the terrified girl in the library, cruelly dismissing her as worthless. A frightened character stumbles forward anxiously. A girl in a pink dress collapses to the ground under a spotlight. A girl suddenly turns in shock, reacting to an unexpected sound behind her. A blue-haired boy confronts his older brother, demanding to know his intentions regarding Syra. A tense silence fills the room as the long-haired figure stands in the dramatic light, quietly observing. A cheerful young girl excitedly greets someone as she runs into view. A girl in a pink dress excitedly hugs a surprised blue-haired boy as they reunite in front of a bookshelf. A girl rushes over and grabs the older boy's injured arm, alarmed by his fresh wound. He reassures her after encountering a strong opponent. A close-up shows the protagonist revealing the identity of a B-rank paladin named Reiser. Zane pauses, deep in thought, as he contemplates the situation. One character confidently reveals that he has outmaneuvered his opponent, while the others stand alert in the shadowy library. The character dismisses the issue and turns away, showing clear indifference. A menacing figure threatens the two children, declaring their insignificance. Bell stands protectively in front of his anxious sister, making it clear he will defend her as well. An imposing figure dismisses the two younger individuals and pushes past them in the library. He softly calls out to his brother, his expression filled with longing. The boy steps forward and declares that he will succeed their father because the current protector has failed the family. A lone figure strides forward across the polished floor, tension rising with each step. A character's hidden power awakens as their eyes glow red and sparks swirl around them. A menacing figure shrouded in darkness and purple energy strides through the doorway, radiating an ominous presence. Bell stands protectively in front of his companion as a shadowy figure confronts them with overwhelming energy. Bell stands protectively as a terrified girl clings to him, surrounded by swirling red energy. He steels himself for the decisive action ahead, determination burning in his eyes. He smirks confidently, unfazed by the situation. A fanged character bursts into maniacal laughter, reveling in the chaos unfolding around him. A sinister man with glowing red eyes confronts two children in a corridor filled with light and shadows. One figure boldly dares the other to attack while striding away down the grand hallway. Two figures stand tensely in a dark hallway, one leading cautiously while the other clings nervously to his arm. He gently reassures her after the frightening ordeal. He senses an intense, overwhelming presence, and realizes it is far from ordinary. He assesses his current B rank strength and acknowledges that his rival has already reached A rank. He recognizes the immense barrier separating B rank from A rank, realizing that overcoming it is crucial to defeating his rival. A determined student sets a goal to achieve A rank before graduating from Athena. Several days pass, and the scene shifts to a grand castle beneath a clear sky. Bell sets down a heavy suitcase with determination and prepares to move forward. Bell steps into the grand hall, drawing the attention of the waiting adults. An older man assesses the situation and acknowledges someone's readiness to leave for school. A young man bows with gratitude beside his packed suitcase as he prepares to depart. An older man assigns a B-rank paladin as a bodyguard to accompany the kneeling student. A composed man bows respectfully, pledging to offer assistance with any matter. Kneeling before the Duke, he respectfully requests a favor. An older man turns to ask what is happening. A nervous young man kneels before two elders as he prepares to ask an urgent question. An excited girl bursts into the room with a suitcase, calling out. A girl rushes in and quickly apologizes for her late arrival. The girl hands a suitcase to the blue-haired boy as another suitcase rests on the ground, marking their parting. Carrying a suitcase, he wishes he could bring her with him as they approach the older man in uniform. An older man, overwhelmed by anguish, questions the situation while a maid silently observes from behind. Bell admits he is worried about leaving his little sister alone and wishes she could stay by his side. A stern older man forbids anyone except the bodyguard from joining at the academy and insists that playing is not allowed. A young girl desperately begs her father for approval. The stern man coldly rejects the plea without hesitation. A decisive request is made for Syra to become a bodyguard, shocking everyone present. Bolstered by his companion's presence, Bell feels confident enough to challenge even an A-rank paladin. An older man pauses in deep thought, silently assessing the situation. An older man scoffs at a bold claim, clearly amused and ready to challenge it. One figure grants permission as the group waits outside the grand building. A horse-drawn carriage rolls quietly down the cobblestone street as evening settles over the city. Two young passengers peer out of the carriage window, one brimming with excitement, while the other calmly observes the passing scenery. Students gather in the courtyard as the academy looms above them. A young woman steps out of the carriage with assistance from a blue-haired boy while a cloaked figure waits nearby with their luggage. Two youths arrive and gaze up at the impressive academy building. Two students stand outside, reflecting on the exclusivity of the noble school. Bell and his companion arrive at the academy, discussing their study plans as they walk through the busy courtyard. Two newcomers arrive at the grand hall, carrying their luggage as they prepare to settle in. A crowd gathers in the courtyard as students engage in a heated group duel. Two high-ranked students clash with swords in a tense spar as a crowd watches intently. Two students arrive at the academy, impressed by the strength and rank of their new peers. A fierce warrior swings his glowing weapon in a wide arc, knocking down multiple opponents with a single powerful attack. He silently acknowledges that an opponent surpasses everyone else. A confident young man sizes up his opponent and charges forward, certain of his superior strength. A stern man armed with a rune-marked axe confronts the last standing opponent as defeated figures lie scattered behind him. A confident young man in uniform grips his ornate weapon, ready to face the crucial moment ahead. A furious attacker charges forward and swings a blood-stained battle axe at his opponent. A man stands confidently in the shadows, smirking as his eyes remain hidden beneath his hat. Bell brings down the glowing, rune-inscribed weapon with a powerful strike. A girl urgently warns someone of impending danger. A massive surge of blue lightning slams into a character, catching them completely off guard. A surge of blue energy slams one figure to the ground while the other stands over him with calm authority. Stunned by the unexpected display of power, the protagonist quickly reassesses his opponent's strength. One student decisively defeats an opponent in front of an awestruck crowd on the glowing battleground. Belle and a young girl freeze in shock as streaks of light burst across the sky. Armored warriors from rival families clash in a brutal battle as smoke and flames engulf the field. Belle glares ahead, declaring his archenemies. He proudly asserts his connection with Syra. The academy prepares for the entrance ceremony under a bright sky. A group of new students is formally welcomed by faculty in a grand hall. The student council president confidently affirms his sincerity while addressing the group. With a faint smile, he expresses his hope to everyone. He confidently declares that they are very strong people. The highest-ranked third-year student and heir to a renowned paladin family is introduced to the group. The protagonist recalls that although they never met him before, they know he achieved S-rank status at 18. He recalls how the S-rank paladin defeated them in the past. Belle narrows his eye in suspicion as he considers whether the figure before him is the person he suspects. A group of students walks toward the academy, discussing the intimidating reputation of President Albert and his status as a B-rank paladin. Two students discuss the number of B-rank members in the student council as they walk down the hallway. The elite student council, composed of the top 4 from the martial arts festival, stands together in the spotlight. The academy's president title is awarded to the champion, confirming that Albert is currently the strongest student. Haunted by doubt, he walks alone through the cold hallway, uncertain if Albert was truly his killer. Determined to prevent future attacks, Belle resolves to prove the Catastrophe family's strength to Albert. Instead of an election, Athena chooses the student council through an annual martial arts tournament, which he resolves to enter. A determined challenger charges forward with swords, aiming to force an opponent's defeat. Students wait quietly in the sunlit classroom as the morning begins. Belle sits alone at his desk, visibly anxious as other students gather and talk nearby. A nervous newcomer approaches and asks if the seat is available. One person offers a seat to another at a long table, and the invitation is accepted. Two students exchange introductions as they prepare to start their 3 years together in the classroom. A blue-haired character quickly turns, startled by an unexpected event off-panel. Belle recoils in shock as he realizes the person before him is actually Lime. The protagonist looks up anxiously, reacting to an unexpected situation. He nervously dismisses the question and tries to change the subject. A time skip to a few years in the future is implied. An armored warrior gains the title of Knight of Retribution after killing 3 rebellious nobles out of personal vengeance. One student studies the other intently and asks for their name, initiating a conversation across the table. He pauses, searching for the right words as he begins to declare his identity. A stern warning is given to conceal both name and status at the academy. The older man explains that using the Catastrophe name would attract help from many people and defeat the purpose of attending the academy. The authority figure challenges the protagonist to prove his worth through his own power. The main character uses a false name while meeting someone across the table to protect his real identity until he can defeat his target. A cheerful young man leans forward and asks if the person off-panel is also from the commoner class. A character explains that the badge on their uniform indicates their noble rank. 2 distinct badges are shown to explain how students' social status is identified at a glance. Belle confidently confirms the statement directed at him. A young man in an ornate uniform openly admits that he is a baronet from the commoner class. While sitting in the sunlit classroom, the protagonist reflects on how few commoners attend the school compared to the many nobles present. The green-haired character enthusiastically suggests they get along as commoners. He reflects on his unexpected friendship with the Knight of Retribution, feeling confident in his new ally. 2 students sit together in the classroom as one quietly appreciates the new experience of having friends. A character in a blue suit notices something unexpected and walks forward with interest. One character stands over another, initiating a tense confrontation as the seated figure grips his backpack and looks up warily. A red-haired boy notices his friend from town has unexpectedly joined his class. Students whisper and stare as a notable red-haired boy enters the classroom, drawing everyone's attention. A red-haired character confronts someone off-panel, demanding to know why they are here. A nervous newcomer admits he just took the entry exam. A cheerful student congratulates 2 classmates for passing, while one looks surprised and the other remains serious. Tension builds as an unseen speaker prepares to reveal something important. A red-haired student mocks a downcast classmate, asserting that Athena is out of reach for a commoner. Belle firmly demands that the other person leave. Caught off guard, the character reacts with shock and confusion. One character forcefully restrains another and demands obedience, asserting dominance through aggression. One character forcefully pins another to the ground and threatens to destroy their reputation with a single word. He slams his fist on the table and ends the confrontation. A distressed character clings to someone and desperately calls for help. A red-haired student seizes a green-haired student by the collar and demands to know their identity, while a blue-haired student watches from the table. The panel centers on a jeweled brooch with a large purple gem attached to a uniform. A character sneers and mocks a newcomer for being a commoner. The boy firmly demands the release of Lime, showing unwavering resolve. The red-haired character gives a calm response while the green-haired character anxiously searches through their bag. A character steps forward with determination. One character delivers a powerful kick to another's chest, sending them flying back. A blue-haired boy urgently checks on his fallen companion, anxiously asking if he is all right. A red-haired character bursts out laughing, mocking someone's defeat. Standing protectively behind the distressed figure, the protagonist confronts the enemy with anger and calls out their hypocrisy. A blue-haired boy challenges a noble, insisting that noble status demands concern for commoners. A red-eyed noble mocks the idea of slave rights, declaring that slaves exist only to be exploited. One character sternly warns the other that even those of high status can easily fall. With his hand glowing with energy, Bell steps forward and challenges his opponent. The protagonist brandishes a chained mace and boldly steps forward, ready to face his opponent. Bell raises his glowing hand and orders Lime to step back as he prepares to use magic. A student brandishes a glowing scythe while another unleashes magic at the front of the classroom, startling their classmates. Sensing an unexpected threat, the protagonist's eyes widen in alarm. Bell draws his sword and prepares to confront his opponent forcefully. A red-haired character bursts into laughter, openly mocking someone while brandishing a staff. A red-haired student mocks the defensive stance and weapon choice of the boy holding the scabbard, escalating the confrontation. One character threatens another with a red-bladed weapon, delivering a sharp insult. A furious young man brandishes his weapon and threatens to kill his unseen opponent. The protagonist draws his ornate sword and confidently dares his opponent to attack. The students watch anxiously as two opponents at the front of the classroom draw their weapons, ready to duel. An aggressive figure charges forward, swinging a chained red weapon. Bell grips his sheathed sword and prepares to face the incoming threat. A red-haired fighter launches a fierce attack with a spiked flail, forcing two students to defend themselves. A hand slams forcefully onto the surface, heightening the tension in the room. A red-haired attacker lunges forward, catching the group off guard as they scramble to defend themselves. A blonde-haired character strums a glowing harp, releasing a surge of magical energy that blasts outward and strikes those nearby. Two young men are suddenly trapped by glowing purple restraints and struggle in pain. An upbeat girl steps in to stop the class from fighting. The blonde character winks and shows cheerful resolve. Bell winces in confusion, struggling to understand the girl's behavior. A character with light hair plays the harp with a gentle smile. A cheerful girl introduces herself to the two students in the room. He realizes that a marquis noble possibly outranks him, causing tension and anxiety. An instructor enters the classroom and begins the lesson. An instructor announces that the first class will involve assessing the students' abilities. The instructor commands the group to attack the monster-like targets using their sacred artifacts. The group shifts their focus to the golems, preparing to attack. An instructor commands the assembled students to demonstrate their power. A determined figure unleashes a surge of magic toward the massive stone structure as the group looks on. Bell charges forward and attacks the stone statue with a torch. A powerful, glowing strike slices through the stone golem. A determined fighter strikes the stone statue with his sword, but it remains undamaged. A massive stone golem with a cracked face and glowing green eyes stands silently, creating a tense atmosphere. A stone golem awakens, its green eyes glowing as an ominous aura fills the air. He observes the group and quickly realizes that the target is able to regenerate. Three fighters simultaneously attack the massive stone golem with powerful blows. A uniformed figure critically assesses the new students, noting that most are only E rank and struggle with elemental magic. Clutching a glowing blue trident, the nervous boy braces himself and responds with uncertainty. A stern evaluator declares the spear to be F rank due to its lack of magical power. With determination, he charges forward, wielding a glowing trident. He swings his staff at the armored enemy, aiming to break through their defense. A figure is hurled backward across the ground, clutching a magical staff and struggling to regain balance after a sudden impact. A red-haired student laughs loudly in front of the group, openly mocking another student for being unable to use magic. Injured and struggling, Bell braces himself as the menacing stone golem advances. With a cocky smirk, he conjures glowing blue energy in his hand, preparing to display his superiority. Bell raises his flaming sword, ready to strike with unwavering confidence. With a fierce shout, he swings the flaming chain mace in a powerful attack. A massive stone golem is struck by a fiery slash, sending shards flying. A powerful magical attack strikes the stone golem, causing smoke and cracks to appear. A chained weapon hurtles toward a group of opponents as sparks erupt in its path. A young person excitedly praises a recent display of power, noting it matches D-rank strength. A character smirks confidently, clearly unfazed by the situation. An energetic blonde character eagerly volunteers for the next turn. A confident performer readies a magical harp as energy swirls in anticipation of the show. A character plays the harp, releasing a surge of magical energy. Bell and another character quickly dodge as beams of energy shoot past them. A massive stone golem is bombarded by powerful pink energy attacks. The protagonist stands proudly with a harp after successfully summoning a towering stone golem, leaving the onlookers amazed. Two students face off in the arena, capturing the attention of the amazed crowd. He claps and praises his opponent's skill, impressed by her abilities. Bell extends his hand to propose an alliance with the Marquis family. A blonde girl firmly confronts the red-haired character about their behavior, causing visible confusion. A determined girl asserts that everyone at school is equal. A blonde student firmly announces that family background and status are irrelevant here, addressing a red-haired newcomer as the others observe. Bell grits his teeth in frustration, his red eyes burning under the dark sky. The instructor calls out the next participant, prompting a young man to step forward as the others watch. A red-haired boy mocks an approaching commoner with a smug expression. The red-haired student taunts the group by ridiculing the usefulness of a scabbard. The protagonist refuses to use the scabbard, leaving everyone else shocked. Bell thrusts his hand forward, unleashing a surge of blue magical energy while gripping his sword. He recoils in disbelief as a second sacred artifact, a sword, suddenly appears. A character reacts with astonishment, eyes wide and hands raised in awe. Bell looks up in astonishment at something unfolding above. A student points out that the sword on display lacks any magical properties, causing the group to react with skepticism. He mocks the incoming attack, certain the sword will have no effect. He glares into the distance, defiantly refusing to back down. Bell raises his dagger, focusing intently as he prepares to strike the training dummy. Bell unleashes a surge of magic, shattering massive stone blocks suspended in the air. Bell smashes several barrels with his sword as the onlookers watch in shock. The students stare ahead in shock, reacting to an unexpected event. A character is stunned to see that a non-magical sword has completely destroyed the golem's tough skin. Bell confidently states that with Caliban and his swordsmanship, he can handle this situation without using magic. A startled character reels in shock upon realizing that the person they thought was a commoner possesses unexpected power. An excited onlooker enthusiastically praises the protagonist for his impressive display, while he stands quietly outside. Bell casually downplays his achievement, insisting that Lime could have done the same. One character expresses amazement and envy at another's advanced magical abilities, admitting they have not yet managed to release their own magic. One character confidently reassures the other about their talent and the exceptional quality of their sacred artifact, prompting a surprised reaction. One character stands resolute beneath the bright sky after being told that perseverance could make them the strongest holy knight. Bell looks up with wide eyes and blushes as he expresses his gratitude. A surprised observer reacts as one character unexpectedly embraces another. A blonde girl grabs the protagonist by the collar and demands to know how he handled the sacred artifact, startling him with her close proximity. A group of students gathers around the blue-haired boy, expressing amazement at his sword skill. Several students gather and discuss the presence of the strongest sacred artifact among the new arrivals. Startled, he looks up in shock at the unexpected event. The group singles out one student, making it clear he is excluded from their circle. Bell scowls in frustration, unable to hide his irritation. The instructor announces the end of the training session but signals there is more to say, prompting the students to pay close attention. An authoritative figure announces that a practical skill test involving monster hunting in the forest will take place tomorrow. A figure stands tensely at the edge of a massive pit, one to be prepared for what comes next. A lone figure leans against the wall, quietly watching as a group of students gathers around a girl in the hallway. One figure commands an ally to step forward, and the other immediately responds and appears from the shadows. A character with glasses and long hair smirks confidently, clearly plotting something. A red-haired young man firmly asks to borrow a familiar for his protection tomorrow. A mysterious figure questions the decision to unleash a powerful, dragon-like entity during class as it begins to emerge. One figure leans against the wall and demands to know if there is a problem, while another sits quietly near the doorway. A character with glasses smirks and acknowledges the boldness of Lord Roger's actions. Leaning against the wall in the dim corridor, one figure smugly anticipates the fear that will soon grip the commoners and lower nobles, while another crouches nearby in silent support. With a malicious grin, the red-haired character swears to send the commoner to hell. A group of students gathers outside the academy as an instructor announces the start of a practical skill test in the nearby forest. A group of students listens as it is announced that E-rank monsters have been released. A group of students is assigned the task of hunting monsters. A staff member announces that the participant with the most kills will earn bonus points, urging everyone to compete their hardest as the students listen attentively. Bell smirks menacingly, his red eyes glinting in the shadows. The instructor signals the students to begin the trial. The instructor begins roll call as the students stand at attention. A spirited girl challenges everyone to a race, prompting the group to dash through the sunlit forest while one quietly observes her enthusiasm. With unwavering resolve, Bell silently vows to keep his grip on first place. A green-haired character hesitantly asks to join the blue-haired character, determined to prove their strength for the future. Bell admits he isn't ready to fight alone yet. He firmly agrees to continue, making it clear he won't slow down. Several students in cloaks race through the misty forest, chasing after their leader. Two figures brace themselves as a giant three-headed serpent lunges toward them. Bell swings his sword and lands a powerful strike on the monster. Bell unleashes a powerful, glowing slash that severs the monster's wing. Bell kneels beside the slain giant serpent as battles continue with other monsters nearby. The lead character swiftly finishes counting the 15 items, unfazed by the challenge as another observes from behind. A character admires their ally's impressive feat of defeating E-rank Nagas with a single blow. A swordsman commands his companion to stay focused as they stand before a slain monster in the forest. A giant serpent suddenly attacks, forcing the startled figure to raise his staff in defense. A determined fighter unleashes a powerful glowing attack on the massive serpent as another onlooker watches in shock. Among the fallen monsters, one figure expresses gratitude for being saved while another warns the group about the unexpected number of approaching enemies. Clutching his trident, he steadies himself in the forest, clearly anxious about what lies ahead. One fighter smashes through blue slime monsters with a staff while another stands ready in the background, weapon drawn. Bell and another fighter fend off attacking goblins on the grassy field. He sits outside, feeling pressured but resolute as he vows to push himself harder. A red-haired figure hides behind a tree, secretly observing two armed individuals confronting each other in the forest clearing. Leaning against a tree in the forest, he sternly warns his opponent not to get overconfident. A red-haired character glares with contempt and insults someone of lower status. A man confidently raises a jeweled axe and threatens his opponent with finality. A determined figure raises a glowing staff and activates its summoning power in the forest. A tense moment unfolds as the protagonist stands ready in the forest, activating a glowing magic circle beneath him. Bell stares down in shock after discovering something unexpected. A dragon-like creature struggles as swirling magical energy binds it tightly. With his sword drawn, the protagonist stands firm as a massive fire dragon erupts in flames before him. Bell recoils in shock as he recognizes the sudden appearance of a salamander. A massive, fiery beast unleashes a devastating blast of energy across the battlefield. A sudden explosion erupts nearby, causing the students to turn in shock. A monstrous burst of fire erupts as the creature attacks, sending the group into terrified chaos. Bell stares ahead in disbelief, visibly shaken by what he sees. A fiery beast unleashes a massive blast of fire as Bell stands firm, raising his staff to confront the attack. The protagonist screams in terror as sudden danger approaches. A figure yanks their companion out of harm's way as a burst of fire erupts nearby. A character unleashes a powerful surge of fire, casting a devastating attack forward. One character urgently shields another, and orders them to escape with the others. Bell grips his shield tightly as he spots an unexpected B-rank monster, his worry evident. Someone decides to embrace the situation, feeling a sense of anticipation. Bell raises his sword as glowing blades of light descend from the sky, unleashing a powerful attack. Bell charges forward and fires a barrage of glowing sword beams across the battlefield. Glowing energy ribbons slam into the fiery beast, forcing it back in the forest. Realizing the enemy can both summon and use unique abilities, Bell grips his staff tensely as glowing shards hover around him in the shadowy forest. One figure stands assertively with a weapon and commands another, who kneels and responds eagerly in the forest clearing. A character with glasses and long dark hair accepts an order with a confident smirk in the nighttime forest. Bell stands ready with his glowing sword as he confronts the fiery beast trapped in magical restraints. Zane watches in shock as someone easily overpowers a B-rank monster. Bell forcefully thrusts his hand forward, commanding his target to disappear. A massive creature wreathed in fire is struck by beams of light piercing the forest canopy. A character blocks the opponent's move by forcefully raising an ornate rifle. Magical projectiles shoot forward at high speed, intensifying the battle. Bell reacts with shock to unexpected news. Two figures brace themselves as a fire monster emerges in the forest clearing. Someone quietly steps onto the grass, signaling a sudden arrival in the dimly lit scene. A hooded figure armed with a rifle confronts someone in the forest, acknowledging their unique ability. Bell confronts the figure, demanding to know if they control the monster and what their objective is. A menacing figure threatens with a chilling demand. A massive dragon wreathed in flames charges forward with ferocious intent. A character unleashes a powerful shot from a glowing, futuristic rifle. A blue and a yellow energy beam collide in a violent explosion. Two powerful energy orbs, one orange and one blue, crash into each other in midair. Bell steadies himself with his sword as his opponent uses steam to obscure the battlefield. Bell raises his shield and unleashes a surge of wind magic. A bespectacled character swiftly draws a glowing weapon and taunts their opponent for being too slow. A cloaked figure summons magical water orbs into the air, casting a powerful spell. Mysterious bubbles appear and float above the sunlit forest. A mysterious figure calmly announces that the protagonist's sword has been sealed. Bell tightens his grip on his sword and prepares to confront a B-rank opponent. A burning dragon confronts three armed figures as glowing bubbles float between them in the tense forest clearing. A dragon-like beast unleashes a torrent of fire across the battlefield. A character with glasses fires a powerful shot from a glowing rifle, intensifying the action. The protagonist braces behind his shield as a fiery magical blast erupts nearby. Bell charges forward, unleashing a surge of elemental energy with his sword and shield. Realizing he faces both a B-rank monster and a holy knight, Bell grips his sword and braces himself, feeling overwhelmed by the situation. Panicked and clutching a glowing trident, he realizes someone is in mortal danger. Hidden behind a tree, one person watches nervously as another stands in the clearing, gripping a glowing red sword. He spots someone unexpected in the forest, his expression turning to shock and concern. A glowing, ornate staff is revealed, identified as the Lindgris family's legendary heirloom. Bell charges forward with determination, gripping his staff tightly. A figure steps into the wooded clearing, and the alert staff wielder quickly recognizes the newcomer. One character points and demands to know if the creature is the other's familiar during a tense standoff in the forest. Bell urgently warns everyone to stop, announcing that Liber is in danger. A spear strikes its target, leaving a severe wound as the victim cries out in pain. One fighter stands over a fallen opponent, asserting dominance as the defeated lies on the ground with their weapon discarded. Overwhelmed by frustration, one character collapses to the ground while another silently watches from a distance. One character overpowers another, forcing them to the ground and seizing their weapon. One character stands over another, mocking his inability to use magic as the defeated figure lies collapsed beside a spear. One character shoves another's head toward a bowl on the floor, humiliating him. Struggling to rise, he grits his teeth and reaches for his staff. One figure stands alert with a glowing staff while another rises cautiously, supporting themselves with a trident staff in the dark forest clearing. He encourages someone not to give up, assuring them they have the potential to become the strongest holy knight. Gripping a staff, the young man stands in the forest, lost in thought as he recalls hearing those words for the first time. Clutching the glowing staff, the protagonist rushes forward, desperate to save his ally. In the shadowy forest, one student challenges the other to a magical duel, tension crackling between their raised staffs. A red-haired young man taunts his opponent with a smug expression. Furious, the young man yells into the darkness to silence his opponent. A figure stands firm, brandishing an electrified trident as he asserts control over his own destiny. Sensing imminent danger, he braces himself in the forest, tense and ready to react. A furious character defiantly shouts at their rival, refusing to be intimidated by their newfound magic. A confident figure stands in a glowing circle, challenging their surprised opponent with a decisive declaration. A character unleashes the fierce power of a glowing, fiery axe. A furious red-haired character unleashes a blazing fire attack with a staff. The warrior swings a massive, glowing trident, unleashing a surge of energy in a powerful attack. A magical spear strikes a blazing energy sphere, triggering a massive explosion of light. A glowing spear smashes through the crystalline ice barrier with explosive force. A red-haired boy recoils in shock as something unexpected happens. Brandishing his glowing trident, he confronts his enemy with a sharp insult. Bell lunges forward with a flaming battle axe, attacking in fury. With fierce determination, he swings his flaming weapon in a powerful attack. A high-tech flying vehicle races rapidly through the blue-lit environment. Two opponents collide in a fierce magical duel, their weapons clashing as energy bursts between them. A blue spear and a red scythe collide, unleashing a surge of energy. A character reacts with shock and disbelief at an unexpected development. A character grips a glowing staff and prepares to strike. A glowing energy sword smashes through the magical artifact, catching its holder completely off guard. The character collapses to his knees, overcome by defeat. A figure stands resolutely with a glowing sword, confronting a stunned opponent who kneels in fear as ominous particles swirl through the forest. Stunned and sweating, the D-rank holy knight realizes he has been overpowered by someone of a lower rank. Standing in the dark forest, the protagonist confronts a former tormentor, now unafraid and holding a glowing staff over the kneeling figure. One character admits feeling nothing as they face another closely in a tense moment. One character forcefully demands the summoning staff while the other hesitates in shock. A red-haired young man boasts about his family's power and threatens to destroy his opponent's house. A massive energy weapon crashes down, unleashing a devastating attack. A red-haired young man is suddenly trapped in ice, screaming in terror. One character grabs another by the collar and demands that they hand something over. Surrounded by blue energy, the panicked character surrenders and promises to hand over the staff. A terrified young man drops to his knees, desperately begging for mercy. One character kneels on the ground, desperately clutching a staff and begging the other for mercy. A determined figure seizes the glowing staff, signaling a decisive moment of triumph. One character issues a stern warning while the other nervously agrees, clutching a staff and bowing their head. He closes his eyes and exhales, steadying himself. He clenches his jaw, barely restraining his anger. A gloved hand pushes through the grass and seizes a broken chain. A flaming spiked mace hurtles through the air, trailing fire as it swings on its chain. A fiery spiked weapon hurtles toward the staff-wielding figure, who braces for the incoming attack. With a wild grin, he lunges forward, threatening his opponent with manic fury. He lifts his sword, blue energy crackling as he prepares to strike. A powerful energy attack erupts from the staff, launching a spiked mace projectile at the target. One character recoils in shock as the other calmly threatens him with a staff or rod. A glowing, enchanted staff lands on the grass, radiating an ominous energy. A massive energy beam slams into the ground, erupting with explosive force. A figure wields a glowing blue spear, overpowering a wounded opponent who stands defenseless. He recoils in pain, sweat streaming down his face as he cries out. Someone desperately shouts for everything to stop. A massive fire-breathing creature unleashes a torrent of flames. A fiery creature begins to vanish as two figures watch from the grassy field. A shocked character reacts intensely to the sudden mention of Lord Roger. In the quiet forest, one figure presents a glowing blue sword while another cautiously reaches out to accept it. A frustrated figure urgently takes aim with a glowing rifle, preparing to shoot in the moonlit forest. A character is ambushed by a sudden surge of magical energy while holding a rifle in the forest. In the moonlit forest, Bell readies his glowing sword, tense and prepared for an imminent fight. One character reveals that Roger orchestrated everything while freeing another from their restraints in the forest. In a dark forest, the protagonist stands ready with a glowing sword, facing an adversary who wanted him eliminated. Bell confronts his opponent and confidently declares his superiority in a one-on-one fight. An enraged character with glasses aims a futuristic rifle at their target. Bell charges forward at high speed, sword drawn, preparing to launch an attack. A startled character gasps and grips their weapon, reacting to sudden danger. Bell taunts his opponent and lifts his sword to attack. A sword is driven down with force, leaving the victim writhing in pain. Realizing they are completely outmatched, the overwhelmed character clutches their head in despair. He prepares to transfer responsibility to the teacher. With determination, the character prepares to activate his last resort. A terrified figure collapses to the ground and desperately begs for mercy as the protagonist stands over them with his sword drawn. He freezes in shock, tense and alert as something unexpected unfolds ahead. Pinned to the ground and sweating, the character desperately confesses to acting under Lord Roger's orders. Bell acknowledges the difficulty of defying a noble's orders. Hiding in the grass, a figure prepares to ambush the unsuspecting kid. A character stands firmly on the grass and decides to offer forgiveness. A character, visibly moved, quietly expresses gratitude. The protagonist swiftly pulls back his sword, revealing he was only pretending to attack. A startled character with glasses looks up in alarm, reacting suddenly to something unexpected. One character stands over the collapsed figure, sword drawn, and declares awareness of their scheme. Two uniformed characters rush through the nighttime forest to check if the other is hurt, but he reassures them that he is fine. Bell smiles and extends his fist in gratitude after being rescued. Bell smiles and expresses gratitude for the help he received. Two characters seal their alliance with a firm fist bump. The group gathers around one member, expressing relief and gratitude for being saved. One character receives enthusiastic praise for defeating a B-rank knight, while the other modestly insists it is nothing special. A group of students surround a boy with his hands tied as tension rises. The students confront the cloaked figure, realizing that both the knight and the earlier monster were connected as allies. Hands bound by rope, the captive glares in frustration at his captor. The students gather outside, praising the green-haired boy for his impressive victory over Roger. A character confronts Bell about hiding his true strength, leaving him visibly surprised. A nervous but grateful character expresses thanks. The knight stands confidently as others acknowledge his reputation. Hiding behind a tree, Bell carefully spies on a secret gathering. A character observes the forest calmly from a high tree branch. A character suddenly realizes the true nature of Liber's sacred weapon. A grand clock tower rises into the clear sky, introducing the peaceful setting. Two cloaked figures walk down a sunlit stone hallway, relieved as they discuss that Roger will finally be dealt with. Two boys in uniform approach a pink-haired girl in a sunlit hallway, preparing for a confrontation. A confident young woman stands in the corridor and calls out to someone. A student recognizes another student while walking through the hallway. Three students confront each other in the corridor as one demands confirmation about Avalon. A blonde character presents the sacred weapon. He freezes in shock, eyes wide as he processes the startling revelation. One character confronts the other, questioning if the weapon is the legendary artifact once wielded by heroes. The two boys are shocked when the girl unexpectedly reveals her knowledge of Avalon. A character smugly confronts someone, confirming their suspicion. Bell stands firm and questions why it matters that someone has discovered Avalon. Someone urgently questions the motives of another character, sensing suspicion. The girl smirks and taunts her opponent with unwavering confidence. Bell locks eyes with his unseen opponent, his glare sharp and unwavering. Bell clasps his hands together, beginning the ritual with unwavering focus. A desperate student bows deeply and begs to see Avalon, startling the two onlookers in the hallway. Bell reels back in shock, unable to process what he just heard. One character bows deeply and begs the others for a chance to see the hero's sacred weapon scabbard. One character carefully hands a scroll to another in the corridor. An excited girl hugs the authentic sword, overcome with joy. A blonde girl eagerly shares a family legend about a hero and a sacred scabbard with two cloaked students in the sunlit hallway. The protagonist considers that a past wielder may have been linked to Silpha's ancestors. Three young characters talk in a tunnel as one of them receives praise and questions about his unique sacred weapon. One character excitedly thanks another and invites everyone to go out together to celebrate. An energetic girl proposes that they invite another friend and visit a popular cafe together. Two boys agree to go to the cafe, one excited and the other lost in thought. Someone considers taking the opportunity to explore the town. One character insists on joining but requests permission to bring an additional person. Someone enjoys tasting delicious food while walking through a lively cafe area. A young woman quietly eats a slice of strawberry shortcake, lost in thought. The group shares a cheerful meal together, enjoying each other's company. Two girls laugh together at the table as one playfully pokes the other's cheek. Smiling as he holds a teacup, the protagonist enjoys a light-hearted moment with two cheerful companions. Someone admits that they are enjoying themselves. A character reflects on never having experienced a joyful school life like this before, while students gather around the table, laughing together. A girl stands at the front of the classroom and calls for everyone's attention as the students focus on her. A cheerful character prepares to play the harp and sing for the group. He quietly sips his tea, wondering what kind of sound a sacred weapons performance would create. With determination, the character charges forward. A character with blonde hair plays a harp, filling the air with gentle music. Bell spits out his drink in shock. The girl plays the harp, causing Bell and the others to react with shock and discomfort. A blonde girl waves and jokes about not caring if something is wrong as long as it's fun. The performer entertains the lively tavern crowd with confident antics and promises more. One character enthusiastically urges the surprised harpist to sing next. Two performers play music energetically on stage, captivating the audience. A cheerful girl laughs excitedly while her older brother watches her with delight. Someone confidently confirms the realization. Two friends share a joyful moment, deepening their new bond. The group strolls down the lively street, still energized from their recent adventure. Two cheerful girls excitedly plan to go shopping together on the busy town street. A boy tries to follow, but a smiling girl stops him and leads another girl away to pick out clothes. Anxiously, one character reacts to another, who remains exasperated and unimpressed. The group agrees to split up, with some waiting in another shop and a promise to call for help if needed. As the two girls stroll down the quiet street, one asks the other if she has any siblings while praising someone named Lee Bear as a great big brother. With unwavering resolve, he firmly denies the accusation. A mysterious figure suddenly confronts two startled girls in the dimly lit street. A determined character glares forward and calls out the villain. A composed student council officer appears, drawing attention with a calm and authoritative presence. A blue-haired character points out the lack of a proper greeting and expresses disappointment over a cold introduction between half-siblings. A tense confrontation unfolds as one girl protectively blocks another, while a newcomer arrives to summon her for training. With a commanding tone, the speaker asserts that the sacred weapon, once trained, will eventually serve their purposes. A frustrated girl forcefully refuses to get involved in wars while confronting a blue-haired figure in the hallway. A hand clamps down on an arm, signaling a swift response to defiance. A blue-haired young man rolls up his sleeve, ready to use force to resolve the situation. A hand bleeds from a fresh wound, hinting at recent pain and rising tension. A sudden attack leaves a hand brutally wounded, blood splattering as the injury takes its toll. A terrified woman recoils and screams in sudden shock. In a shadowy alley, a calm figure summons a swirling mass of red energy in his hand. The protagonist realizes that the enemy is wielding a blood-based sacred weapon. A character urgently calls out for Mary. With a confident glare, he declares that the bodyguards have already been defeated. A figure cautiously approaches and discovers someone lying motionless on the dim stone street. Belle recoils in shock after witnessing something unbelievable. A blue-haired character unleashes a surge of red, tentacle-like energy onto the city street and charges forward. A protective figure urgently commands his companion to escape as he readies a glowing harp against approaching danger. A hand strums the glowing strings, releasing a surge of magical energy. A character urgently shields an ally from a barrage of red energy attacks and tells them to run. A blue-haired man conjures swirling red energy, preparing to attack before anyone can intervene. A hand unleashes a massive surge of red energy that erupts upward. A young girl recoils in panic as a massive red energy attack surges toward her. A character is suddenly stabbed from behind, leaving another in shock as blood sprays. A girl frantically rushes to help as another collapses, injured and unconscious, into her lap. An unseen figure demands to know why the girl is protecting the child. A blue-haired figure asserts control, channeling red energy to threaten their opponent. A monstrous red claw slams the shocked character violently against the wall. A character unleashes a glowing red energy to restrain an opponent, while a frightened girl watches from the ground. Overwhelmed by sudden fear, the character recoils in shock, tears welling in her eyes. A character is violently grabbed by the neck and held upside down in a dark corridor. The protagonist lifts a glowing red crystal toward the sky with unwavering determination. A terrified girl screams for her brother's help as tears stream down her face. A character sprints urgently across the shimmering surface. A fierce sword strike hurls the restrained opponent through the air. A blue-haired character is startled as a glowing red shard pierces their hand. Belle urgently carries an unconscious ally as he confronts Zane on the city street scattered with red petals. A young girl cries out joyfully as she sees her brother. Belle steps forward and demands to know what is being done to his unconscious friend. He steels his resolve, locking eyes forward in focused determination. A blue-haired character confronts someone on the street, questioning their connection to Silpha. A confrontational figure warns the group to stay out of the sibling conflict as tension rises around the unconscious girl. One person steps forward with determination, while another tends to an unconscious girl, accepting responsibility to care for her and another companion. Belle steps forward with a glowing, spell-charged hand, ready to confront the opponent. Two opponents face off in the street as tension rises, while others tend to an unconscious girl nearby. Red tendrils surge from his hand as he challenges his opponent about the value of protecting Silpha. Belle slashes through the red, tentacle-like attacks with his glowing sword, pushing back the assault. Surprised by the unexpected dodge, the character quickly processes the turn of events. Belle charges forward with his decorated sword to help his friend. A determined swordsman descends from above, unleashing a powerful energy attack as his opponent desperately blocks with a red barrier. He dismisses the situation as a waste, showing no sign of being impressed. Belle realizes that a barrier made of blood has appeared. One fighter abandons magic and charges with a sword, landing a decisive blow as the wounded opponent staggers in the ruined corridor. Bell hurls a glowing red energy orb forward, unleashing a powerful attack. Bell is hit by a powerful red energy attack and staggers in pain, still gripping his sword. Bell gathers a swirling mass of red energy, preparing to strike at his opponent. A long-haired character unleashes a powerful surge of red energy from their hand, escalating the battle. A sudden bullet attack forces the protagonist to quickly grab a weapon as blue energy flares to life. Bell aims a rune-engraved gun with unwavering determination, ready to retaliate. Realizing the enemy possesses a second sacred artifact, the wary character braces for a tougher battle. He charges forward with fierce determination, firing his gun at the enemy. A powerful attack is unleashed as explosive energy blasts collide. On a deserted street, Zane unleashes a powerful magic attack at Bell, who braces to defend himself. Frustrated by his opponent's precise defense, Bell acknowledges the challenge and reacts with irritation. A long-haired figure unleashes a swirling red energy orb at an approaching opponent. A powerful surge of red energy erupts, signaling the release of a mysterious force. A figure stands firm, summoning a massive, glowing red spear and preparing to unleash a decisive attack. Bell slams his flaming weapon downward, launching a powerful attack. Bell lunges forward with a powerful attack while his opponent braces to counter. Someone bursts out with laughter, clearly excited by the situation. A figure launches off the rooftop with force while another watches closely from below. One character seizes another by the collar and glares fiercely, leaving the other visibly startled. Bell crashes into the ground, releasing a surge of destructive energy. A character crashes forcefully into the ground, creating a deep crater as three others watch. Despite being tied up, he interrupts with a confident grin and asserts his desire to join in. Bell warily recognizes someone from the student council, sensing potential trouble. A tense silence fills the air as the young man confronts the unexpected arrival. A figure enters the scene, criticizing someone for using too much force against children. Bell crouches with a smirk, teasing his flustered opponent in the hallway. A girl with cat ears taunts someone, grinning as she raises her finger in mockery. He clenches his fist in frustration as red energy swirls around him. With a burst of energy, the protagonist rallies everyone to fight with full force, holding a glowing object as light radiates around him. Bell steps forward, energy swirling around him as he declares his intent to join the fight. A large armored warrior towers over the protagonist, who stands his ground and aims a weapon while a bystander watches in shock. A powerful figure appears, causing the protagonist to worry that more enemies are after Silpha. A girl with cat ears taunts her opponent, while wielding a glowing magical book in the street. A magical book unleashes a surge of energy, sending chains flying from a swirling portal. A masked and armored figure, startled, struggles against the glowing chains binding them. A smiling figure uses swirling magic to bind the armored opponent with glowing chains. He senses an overwhelming surge of magic power from the woman, leaving him visibly shocked and tense. A heavily armored man shatters the glowing chains restraining him and surges forward with renewed determination. A muscular young man surges forward, struggling against glowing chains as someone assigns him and another person a student council task. An energetic figure announces the start of a month-long expedition to the Liam Forest, catching a blue-haired companion by surprise. Frustrated but seeing no other option, he prepares to act. Two older students walk away, leaving the nervous newcomer alone on the street. Bell stands alone with the mysterious weapon, realizing the others have left. He realizes the student council poses a formidable threat. Someone stammers a name in shock, heightening the tension. Bell rushes over to check on the injured girl as concern fills the group. The girl hesitantly apologizes, looking regretful as she touches her hair. One companion reassures the group not to worry after being apologized to for getting involved in the conflict. Bell demands to know the reason behind the conflict between the brothers. She admits that he wants to use her. The character outlines plans to expand territory by attacking unexplored regions after graduation. One character raises a question about the dangers of unexplored regions filled with powerful magical beasts, while another listens attentively. The character realizes that his artifact is expected to play a crucial role in the upcoming war. The character thinks about their true goal of becoming stronger and claiming the next heir's position, not participating in war. He silently considers the weight of becoming the next heir. He confidently draws a comparison to himself. A defeated character reflects on their inability to overcome their opponent, feeling powerless. A young girl earnestly defends her ally, insisting that she was protected. A character's eyes widen in shock as he realizes something critical. A young woman expresses her gratitude with a warm smile. A character approaches a group in the village street and expresses gratitude. He smiles warmly and expresses his gratitude. Haunted by regret, he mourns his inability to save someone in the past. He extends his hand to help the person on the ground, encouraging them to have confidence. With determination, he pledges to fight alongside his ally. A student in uniform confronts two others, drawing their attention with a commanding shout. With tears in her eyes, the pink-haired girl smiles warmly and thanks the person before her. Bell realizes he narrowly avoided death as his opponent stands ready to strike with a massive red weapon. The group learns that Silpha will be targeted again in a month. A character silently resolves to become stronger. Determined to unlock his unique ability, the protagonist sets out to find the shadowy figure motivating him. Sitting on the bed with a sword in hand, the The protagonist decides he must return to the space where permission from previous generations can be obtained to unlock the B-rank ability. A boy stands guard with his sword at the bedside while a girl sleeps. With his eyes closed in concentration, he presses the decorated scroll to his forehead and begins the ritual. A confident man steps forward and announces his return to the 6th generation inside a glowing chamber. A man stands on a glowing magical circle and greets the assembled figures from previous generations in the vast throne room. Bell interrupts before the request can be fully spoken. A red-haired man confidently points out that he witnessed the earlier battle and offers to help unlock the other's ability. Two figures discuss a powerful artifact that can transform between a shield and a spear. A group arrives on a glowing magic circle and observes a mysterious figure seated ahead. One figure stands calmly with eyes closed while another lingers in the shadows behind him, heightening the tension. A confident figure readies a futuristic weapon, insisting that burning the object will end the problem. Determined to win the rematch, the protagonist requests the B-rank unique ability from Mr. Raidan. A red-haired man extends his hand to the blue-haired boy, initiating an introduction as a pink-haired girl watches nervously. One character forcefully slaps another across the face, sending them stumbling backward. A red-haired man taunts a younger boy, who reacts by covering his face in embarrassment. A pink-haired character angrily confronts someone and demands they stop playing tricks. The group debates the heavy magical cost of using the flame ability as tension rises. One character warns the other that using magic in their current state will quickly lead to exhaustion and dangerous vulnerability. A red-haired man confidently sets a training condition for the rematch, requiring 300 flame bullets to be fired daily with the gun. A mystical circle activates as the protagonist is offered a unique ability with a limit of 300 shots. He desperately admits that firing more than 100 shots a day is currently impossible for him. A confident man sets clear conditions and tells the other person to approach only after meeting them. A hand snaps its fingers, activating a surge of blue magical energy. Bell stares ahead in shock, suddenly realizing a startling truth. Bell sits anxiously on the bed, muttering in frustration about the old man's antics as he grips his staff. Bell calculates that he must triple his magical power within a month to meet the challenge of firing 300 shots before the rematch. Bell recoils in disbelief as he struggles to comprehend the shocking revelation. A silver-haired figure challenges the red-haired man about the unfair condition as tension fills the glowing chamber. A pink-haired girl accuses the red-haired person of lying about increasing his magical power, causing him to back away defensively. A red-haired man doubts the protagonist's chances of success, confidently dismissing his ability to win. A mystical forest shimmers under blue, ethereal light, introducing a magical new setting. A powerful blast erupts as the protagonist fires his weapon. The orc reels back as a devastating blow lands squarely on its chest. The empowered warrior strikes down the goblin, sending its massive body crashing to the ground. Bell pauses in the forest to catch his breath, wiping sweat from his forehead as he struggles with exhaustion. Bell unleashes a powerful magical attack against the monster, pushing himself to grow stronger. The protagonist launches a fierce attack on a group of goblins, leaping through the air with explosive force. One character expresses astonishment at another's impressive strength without a weapon. At the edge of the forest, the protagonist steels himself with a vow to grow stronger and defeat his older brother. Two determined characters prepare to join the fight, eager to become stronger. Two figures race through the misty forest, urgently fleeing together under the cover of night. He looks up at the sky with a confident, satisfied smile. Someone decides to move forward, determined to continue their journey. Exhausted from battle, the protagonist stands among the defeated orcs, reflecting on his depleted magic and small gains in power. Bell questions his ability to shoot 300 shots a day as he stands determined in the forest with his glowing weapon. He realizes his current progress is far from sufficient. He senses a sudden threat in the glowing forest and looks up, startled. Bell looks up in shock, realizing the roar signals a threat even more dangerous than an orc. Bell rushes forward, determined to reach his endangered allies. He races urgently through the misty, shadowed forest. A massive, red foot crashes down through the mist, signaling a powerful arrival. A shocked protagonist stumbles upon a massive, red-skinned figure collapsed on the ground in skull-adorned armor. Three characters cheer as they stand victorious over the defeated red monster. Two figures unite in a powerful high-five, sending a surge of energy through the air. In the forest, one character greets another with enthusiastic praise for their efforts. A shocked character demands to know if the others truly defeated the creature. The group celebrates their recent success with excitement in the forest. Bell realizes in shock that the bloody orc is actually a C-rank monster, much stronger than he initially thought. Realizing a normal victory was impossible, the group decided to use a clever trick. Bell unleashes powerful ice magic, trapping the red demon-like enemy within towering pillars of ice. Using the ice wall to reflect sound, the warrior intensifies the harp's attack against the trapped red demon. An enthusiastic character exclaims in awe, eagerly gesturing in the forest. A character, holding a glowing harp-like weapon, realizes they work well together as a team. Bell realizes he is facing a coordinated attack from two opponents, and reacts with shock. With a surge of excitement, Bell realizes a new way to keep firing bullets. A giant armored figure blocks the path, forcing the three to brace for a confrontation in the tense forest clearing. A group of armored, red-skinned monsters emerge from the misty forest, ready to attack. A group of exhausted students in the forest reacts anxiously to the sudden threat of a bloody orc ambush. Bell offers reassurance with a confident smile. He grips his sword and faces the advancing creatures, refusing to back down. Two characters stand in a misty forest, astonished as they survey the defeated enemies and wonder about the sudden disappearance of the victor. A girl quietly explains that someone left because they had something to do. Someone returns to the group unexpectedly in the mystical chamber, surprising everyone. A group confronts the lone figure across a glowing magic sigil, demanding to know if the task conditions are being changed. Bell firmly declares that he has already finished the task. Two characters react in shock as the task is unexpectedly completed, while a hooded figure watches from behind. A pink-haired girl reacts in shock after witnessing someone complete an impossible task in just one day. The group stands in tense silence as one character challenges the others to verify his unbelievable accomplishment. A commanding figure challenges the young combatant to demonstrate his skills in a real battle as he stands alone in the glowing arena. A confident man sets a demanding test, challenging someone to fire 300 shots while fighting and allowing the use of other divine weapons. A red-haired man taunts the main character, challenging him to a fight in front of their companions. The protagonist responds without hesitation, confidently accepting the challenge. Several figures prepare to activate the magic circle as the signal is awaited. An older man with an eye patch prepares to address the group with determination. The older man smirks confidently while the younger man glares back, and tension fills the air as they stare each other down. An older man with a gray beard shouts to announce the start of the event. With unwavering resolve, Bell aims a futuristic gun, preparing to unleash its power. A red-haired man swings his burning weapon with force, unleashing a powerful attack. Bell is struck in the chest by a sudden, glowing force and grimaces in pain. A red-haired man smirks and taunts his opponent while brandishing his weapon. Bell realizes his opponent is faster than him, confirming the power of Ragnarok's original owner. A confident man taunts his opponent while launching a fiery magical attack from his arm. Bell fires the glowing, ornate gun with fierce determination. A massive explosion tears through the area, engulfing everything in a flash of energy. The man reacts with curiosity to something surprising off to the side. An older man acknowledges the impressive skill of someone who was trained by another member of the group. An older man with an eye patch proudly claims the younger woman as his accomplished pupil. Tension escalates among the group as the pink-haired girl aggressively confronts the hooded figure, signaling the start of a new conflict. A hooded character anxiously admits concern about whether Liber can continue shooting. Realizing their disadvantage, the group acknowledges that matching the opponent's shots will require more than 100 attempts. Bell fires a powerful magical gun, unleashing a surge of energy. A red-haired man fires a powerful, ornate gun with determination. A colossal burst of energy erupts, shaking the entire area. Bell is struck by a powerful blow and staggers back, gripping his weapon in pain. One armored man urgently observes that Liber's magic is weakening after the 97th shot, prompting alarm from his companion. Unimpressed by his opponent's efforts, the red-haired man aims his weapon and prepares to end the fight swiftly. Bell smirks with newfound confidence. Bell summons blue energy and challenges his opponent to fight. Bell braces behind his shield, blocking the incoming attack as blue energy crackles around him. A red-haired man mocks his opponent's attempt to defend with a shield. Bell unleashes a surge of wind magic through his futuristic weapon. A hand grips a high-tech weapon as green energy begins to swirl around it. A man realizes that the gun's power comes from channeling wind energy around it. Bell dismisses his opponent and conjures a swirling burst of orange energy in his hand. A massive energy blast erupts, tearing through the area with overwhelming force. A massive energy beam blasts forward, tearing through everything in its path. A red-haired man recoils in shock as something unexpected happens off-panel. He explains that combining divine weapons allows someone to shoot flames with minimal magic power. A man fires a glowing magical gun, unleashing a burst of energy. An elderly man realizes a clever tactic involving the wind from a shield, intrigued by its unexpected use. A pink-haired character energetically urges Liber to defeat the old man while another expresses surprise at the harsh encouragement. A red-haired man confronts his opponent while brandishing a powerful futuristic gun. One figure confronts their rival across a blazing summoning circle, accusing them of a previous betrayal as onlookers watch tensely. He leans in with a confident smirk, declaring this as payback for the earlier prank. A red-haired man reveals a hidden weapon and taunts his opponent for falling into his trap. Bell fires a powerful magical blast upward, filling the area with explosive energy. An older man with a white beard and eye patch excitedly announces that the fighters are evenly matched again. Amid a barrage of energy blasts, the red-haired man grimaces and fires his ornate gun at his attackers. The hooded character realizes the enemy's magic power is nearly depleted. Bell unleashes a powerful surge of green energy from his weapon, launching a fierce magical assault. He narrowly evades a massive fiery blast, propelled by a surge of adrenaline. Bell charges forward with determination, preparing to finish the fight. A red-haired man bursts through the flames, weapon raised to stop his opponent's advance. A blade erupts in flames as it strikes down onto a glowing, rune-marked surface. Bell realizes the enemy is hiding within the flames. Surrounded by blazing magical flames, The character urgently scans the area, trying to locate the hidden attacker. Bell is knocked back as a surge of energy slams into him. He urgently demands confirmation, his expression intense and determined. A man unleashes a fiery strike with his spiked gauntlet. He fires his gun while shielding himself with a large green barrier, frustration etched across his face. A determined attacker unleashes a barrage of magical strikes against the glowing barrier, refusing to relent. Bell braces himself behind a high-tech green shield, preparing to withstand the incoming threat. A determined figure unleashes a powerful wind-based attack with a commanding shout. A powerful shield barrier surges forth, blocking the incoming weapon attack. He looks up in frustration as energy streaks flash behind him. He charges forward and unleashes a powerful attack with the glowing artifact. A hand grips the glowing weapon as energy surges in preparation for action. Bell recoils in shock as glowing magical symbols erupt behind him. The group notices that the wind around the gun has vanished and questions whether the magic has been depleted. Magical blasts collide in midair as both opponents unleash their attacks at the same moment. Realizing he has no bullets left, he lowers his gaze in resignation. A massive explosion erupts, shaking the entire scene. A character collapses to one knee on a glowing magic circle as energy surges around them. Kneeling on the glowing circle, he clutches his chest and collapses, drained of all magic. Bell channels powerful energy through the glowing artifact, activating the magical circle. A group stands within a glowing magical circle as one person acknowledges an impressive achievement, the 301st shot. Surrounded by intense magical energy, he staggers and collapses from exhaustion. Exhausted and out of breath, Bell acknowledges his narrow victory. An authoritative figure informs the kneeling individual of their successful advancement. A confident red-haired man steps forward and offers a handshake. Bell pauses to catch his breath, looking up with a hint of uncertainty. Permission is granted for the release of a unique ability, as two figures seal the decision with a firm handshake. An authority figure grants permission for the release of a unique ability, as two characters shake hands in a glowing setting. A red-haired man helps a blue-haired boy stand as onlookers observe from a glowing, rune-marked floor. He expresses gratitude with a polite smile. A hand unleashes a surge of energy from a flaming, futuristic gun. Bell grips the flaming sword and prepares to face his opponent with renewed determination. A confident man encourages a younger boy to win by extending his fist in support. Two characters seal their alliance with a powerful fist bump. A few days later, the protagonist confronts a massive griffin-like creature in a sunlit forest clearing. The protagonist stands victorious over the fallen beast in the sunlit forest clearing. Clenching his fist, the protagonist regains confidence in his ability. Three figures cautiously approach the smoking corpse of the defeated beast in the clearing. One character excitedly asks another how to activate unique abilities after witnessing an impressive display. One student explains that he only gains magic power by defeating monsters, while another looks disappointed by this simple method. One student shares his daily magic power training routine, prompting an eager request from a classmate to be taught. One character calmly demonstrates a meditation technique to two attentive companions in the forest. A character demonstrates forming a hand seal in front of their chest to circulate magic power. A calm boy receives instructions on how daily meditation will accelerate his magical growth. A character meditates to refine his magic power and prepare for battle. Two students eagerly join in the meditation practice, sitting cross-legged with eyes closed in the quiet forest. A mentor explains that consistent training will eventually accelerate the students' progress. Two figures sit side by side, focusing their energy as intense auras glow around them. Sensing a sudden surge in magic, the protagonist stands alert in the mystical forest. He realizes that the rapid progress of these two is highly unusual. Three figures sit cross-legged on the grass, each focusing intently as they meditate surrounded by glowing auras. The protagonist focuses intently, preparing a secret strategy. 5 days later, three fighters launch a coordinated assault on a massive red-skinned monster in the forest. 10 days later, two swords collide in a fierce duel. Two opponents clash weapons in a fierce duel, while a third person cowers nearby. 20 days later, three figures meditate quietly in the forest, completing their training. 30 days pass, and a group of cloaked figures emerges from the mist as three others silently await their arrival. A determined figure stands ready in the moonlit forest as a cloaked observer grips a staff and watches from the shadows. Bell steps forward in the forest and addresses the group, breaking the silence after his long absence. The character glares intensely, ready to confront the challenge ahead. One figure instructs an ally to leave with another as they step forward to confront their opponent. A hooded figure firmly accepts the command while gripping a golden ornate staff. A girl refuses to obey, gripping her harp and glaring forward with determination. Bell fires a powerful, glowing arrow straight ahead. A robed figure unleashes a powerful magical attack toward a distant opponent, who braces for impact. With a shout, the protagonist charges forward, gripping a staff weapon and launching into action. The attacker's strike is effortlessly blocked by the opponent's staff. Bell steps forward with his spear, blocking the enemy's path to prevent anyone from taking Silpha. One figure stands ready in the misty forest, challenging the other to finally settle their conflict. Bell demands to know the real reason Silpha is being involved in the upcoming war. One character explains that the girl's divine weapon is a unique heirloom from her maternal family. An A-rank ability that manipulates people through sound is revealed. A scheming character plans to force the girl to use her staff and transform people into combat weapons to ensure the war proceeds smoothly. He clenches his fist in anger, confronting the accusation about Silpha. He coldly admits that he only views his sister as a tool for his own convenience. One figure towers over another in the dark forest, intensifying the confrontation. Bell denounces his rival while unleashing the power of a flaming artifact. A blue-haired character taunts his opponent, asserting that the gun won't secure their victory. Bell smirks and readies his weapon, openly challenging his opponent in the forest. Bell senses an unexpected presence and reacts with shock in the dark woods. A hand swiftly activates the mechanical device, causing its red light to glow. A surge of energy erupts as an armored hand activates a powerful ability. A heart becomes engulfed in intense flames. Flame magic overwhelms him, seizing control of his entire body. Surrounded by roaring flames, he clenches his chest and channels his power with unwavering resolve. The character assesses the threat posed by a unique ability, appearing visibly concerned. Engulfed in raging flames, the protagonist struggles desperately to withstand the intense assault. Surging with phoenix-shaped flames, the protagonist launches a powerful charge. Bell hurtles downward, his head blazing with fire as he attacks. A surge of fiery energy erupts as one figure charges forward, forcing the other to react in frustration. Bell thrusts his hand forward and releases a powerful magical attack. Ignoring the explosion, the character charges forward, unfazed by the attack. With a surge of determination, the protagonist unleashes a powerful burst of fire magic. A shocked character reacts as the blood mysteriously evaporates. Bell unleashes a burst of flames, incinerating the ropes restraining him. Bell unleashes a fierce punch, launching a powerful attack. A surge of magic erupts as the protagonist channels his power into a decisive attack. Bell raises his arm to block as a fiery explosion crashes down on him. A flaming fist smashes through the red crystal barrier, sending shards flying. A fiery punch connects, knocking the opponent backward with a cry of pain. A surge of fiery energy propels one fighter forward, sending the other skidding helplessly across the ground. Surrounded by a surge of fiery energy, the protagonist confronts his opponent and warns them to give up and leave. Someone steps forward onto the grass with determination. Hunched over and gripping his arm, the injured man struggles to recover in the forest clearing. A character erupts with wild, sinister laughter, their expression twisted with madness. A dark, armored arm disintegrates, scattering fragments into the air. A character's face twists with black markings as he begins to transform, overwhelmed by a surge of power. The horned, armored figure is violently knocked backward amid a burst of red energy and flying debris. Surrounded by intense flames, he recoils in shock at the sudden, mysterious fire. A horned figure in black dragon-like armor grips his chest and reveals his draconic power. A fierce figure harnesses the divine weapon of Evil Lane and activates a B-rank ability, transforming into a powerful dragon form. He reveals his true power, his intense gaze filled with determination. Surrounded by fierce flames, he braces himself against the overwhelming pressure. A menacing figure threatens the defiant man standing amid the flames. A monstrous hand with sharp claws lunges forward at high speed, initiating a sudden attack. A transformed, horned figure surges forward, unleashing the power of dragon blood. Amid swirling orange flames, he narrows his eye and channels his power. A winged, fierce-looking character with purple hair strikes down at a red-haired figure engulfed in flames. The protagonist braces himself as a swift, fiery attack nearly strikes him. The horned character reels back in shock after realizing their attack struck only an afterimage. A surge of fire magic erupts as Bell commands the flames to engulf his opponent. A dragon-armored figure unleashes a massive burst of fire at the defending character below. Two opponents clash midair amid swirling flames as one charges forward and the other defends atop a burning dragon. Bell unleashes a burst of fiery power as flames erupt around him. A powerful explosion erupts, engulfing the scene in flames. A powerful attack bursts through the dense trees, sending energy swirling through the forest. A winged figure with flames pursues another with bat-like wings as they clash mid-air above the forest. A dark-armored, winged figure hovers above, scoffing at the weak attempt below. A powerful armored figure is revealed, its body marked with glowing pink lines and a purple crystal embedded in its chest. He realizes the flames haven't left a single burn on his body. A winged attacker hurtles down from the sky, launching a brutal assault. He clenches his flaming fist, preparing to try a different approach. He charges forward and launches a powerful, fiery punch. A golden creature and a black creature collide midair, launching an intense aerial battle above the trees. Midair, a determined fighter unleashes a fiery slash at the dragon-like creature. Surrounded by raging flames, Bell unleashes a surge of power with a fierce shout. A blazing attack hurtles toward the airborne opponent, who spreads demonic wings in defiance. The armored figure shrugs off the attack, radiating confidence and magical power. He realizes his attack has no effect and grows frustrated by the opponent's unexpected toughness. A massive tail lashes through the air, signaling the start of a fierce counterattack. A fiery aura erupts as the armored combatant delivers a crushing kick, sending the protagonist reeling. A fiery attack sends one fighter hurtling through the air as the winged opponent hovers above. A menacing figure unleashes a massive orb of dark magic, attempting to erase their opponent. A character unleashes a powerful blast of fiery energy from his hand. A winged figure unleashes a red energy blast from above, striking the burning, falling opponent below. A massive glowing orb collides with a swirling vortex of energy, unleashing a devastating shockwave. A massive explosion fills the sky, shaking the battlefield. Bell surges upward through the sky, unleashing his fiery wings with overwhelming force. The demonic-looking character assesses that his opponent is nearly defeated. A figure in dragon-like armor hovers in the air, unleashing a barrage of red energy orbs. A young man unleashes a powerful burst of fire from his hand in a desperate attack. A character unleashes a devastating, glowing attack into the sky, triggering a massive explosion of light. A tense moment unfolds as one character urgently warns his ally about a potential threat. A wary character gauges their opponent's strength in the tense forest. The two adventurers brace themselves to confront the hooded figure in the dark forest. A hooded figure pauses in the mystical forest, gripping a golden staff and preparing for what comes next. With a burst of energy, the protagonist charges forward and swings his ornate weapon at the enemy. Bell prepares to attack as he confronts a hooded figure wielding a magical staff. A glowing sword crashes forcefully into the ground. He narrows his eyes, reacting cautiously to something happening out of view. Two opponents clash as one swiftly deflects a powerful weapon strike. With urgency, the leader commands his team to act immediately. A character forcefully stomps the ground, unleashing a powerful shockwave. A determined figure charges forward and unleashes a powerful, glowing attack with a magical harp. Reflecting on the battle, he recalls how their combination move overcame a superior monster. With a surge of determination, he charges forward to end the fight in a single decisive strike. A robed figure stands unfazed as they withstand a furious barrage of magical attacks. A massive weapon crashes into the ground, scattering debris everywhere. A hooded figure raises a staff and summons a swirling mass of dark energy. A character unleashes a powerful burst of magic with a glowing staff. A dark and purple energy vortex forms at the center of the scene. The characters are stunned as they witness something being unexpectedly absorbed. A massive spear crashes into the ground, scattering debris everywhere. A hooded figure raises a golden staff and commands complete destruction. A figure wielding a harp charges toward the dark portal as another stands ready in the background. A panicked figure is yanked upward into a swirling vortex of energy. A hooded figure explains that the absorption power cannot be broken by magic attacks of a certain scale. A stunned figure falls to the ground, clutching a large ornate harp in shock. A hooded figure steps forward in the misty forest to detain Lady Sylpha under the Lord's orders. Bell blocks the adversary's path, gripping his staff with unwavering determination. A cloaked figure bars the path in the forest, declaring no one will interfere as the confrontation escalates. A fierce spear thrust meets a sword as the two opponents clash in the heat of battle. A fierce attacker slams a spear into their opponent's face, landing a critical blow. A hooded figure swiftly strikes down a green-haired opponent with a powerful blow from a staff. A frightened girl sits on the ground, alarmed, as she calls out with a broken harp beside her. Collapsed on the ground, the character struggles to rise and agonizes over their inability to help. Bell staggers back as a sword slashes across his face. A young woman sits on the ground, overwhelmed by frustration at her inability to help. He explains that training makes it easier to unleash power in battle. Sensing imminent danger, the blonde-haired character quickly turns to assess the threat. The character crouches down, gripping his knee as he tries to steady himself. With eyes closed, the character centers himself and concentrates on sensing the flow of magic. He steels himself, ready to take action. Gripping the harp with determination, he declares his resolve to save Lime. The hooded attacker swings a large golden weapon down, aiming a decisive blow at the green-haired defender. A hand reaches out and activates the shimmering magical barrier. Bell braces himself as he struggles to block a powerful strike with his sword. A hand reaches out and activates the glowing magical barrier. With fierce determination, he refuses to give up. A character reels in disbelief at an unexpected development. A focused figure channels mystical energy through a glowing divine weapon. A character listens intently as magical music fills the air. A blonde character plays a harp, filling the air with magical music as light swirls around. With fierce determination, he channels his emotions into newfound strength. He steels himself for the challenge ahead, determination clear in his eyes. Bell fiercely struggles to seize control of the staff from his unseen opponent. An attacker rushes forward and strikes an off-guard opponent with a spear-like weapon. Shocked by a sudden surge of strength, the character reels back in disbelief. Bell raises his electrified sword and prepares to unleash a magical attack. A figure crashes onto the icy ground, sending a surge of blue energy crackling outward. A sudden burst of magic hurtles toward the defender, forcing a desperate attempt to block the attack. A determined man unleashes a desperate energy strike against his opponent, refusing to give up. A character screams in terror as fear overwhelms him. With exhaustion taking its toll, one winged fighter surges forward to deliver the final blow as their airborne clash reaches its climax. A character surrounded by flames stares in shock as a massive ice formation appears with several figures standing on top. Surrounded by blazing fire, the character braces for a decisive battle against the dragon-like opponent hovering ahead. The protagonist prepares to activate his trump card, surrounded by fiery energy. Surrounded by swirling flames, he resolves to take a risky gamble and prepares to unleash his trump card. A winged, horned figure confronts a glowing opponent in the forest, annoyed by the suspicion that the other is still holding back their true strength. A sinister figure threatens their opponent with despair, eyes glowing menacingly. A figure with fiery wings launches into the sky, confronting a menacing opponent hovering above with bat-like wings. A character with pointed ears releases a surge of magical energy into the sky. A powerful figure is blasted backward by a surge of red energy, struggling to withstand the attack. With flames swirling around him, he prepares to unleash his full-force strike. A determined figure unleashes a powerful burst of fire magic. Surrounded by raging flames, he braces himself and resolves to endure the trial for a chance at victory. A determined figure shouts and charges forward as a demonic opponent unleashes a powerful attack. A massive energy blast erupts with overwhelming force. A demonic figure hurls a massive energy blast at the protagonist, engulfing the area in flames. Flames surge around as the protagonist stares upward, stunned by the overwhelming size of the threat. A determined figure releases a powerful burst of fire magic from his hand. Bell thrusts his hand upward, unleashing a burst of fiery energy in desperation. A massive fiery energy blast crashes down from the sky toward the lone figure standing below. A character unleashes a devastating energy blast from their mouth. A character unleashes a massive, fiery energy attack upward, filling the scene with intense light. Engulfed in flames, he staggers back, screaming in agony. A dragon-like creature screams in agony as it is struck by a devastating energy blast. A winged, horned figure hovers before a swirling portal, cautiously surveying the aftermath. A character smirks confidently, mocking the disappointing outcome. Struggling against the fiery onslaught, the protagonist refuses to give in as the adversary closes in. With a sudden ambush midair, one figure seizes the other from behind, catching them completely off guard. Fiery chains tighten around the captive's neck as the attacker explains how he gained the upper hand during the charge. A fiery figure emerges as the attacker reveals that the opponent only destroyed a flame duplicate. A winged fighter engulfs his opponent in flames, leaving no room for resistance. One character grabs the other from behind as flames erupt between them, escalating the confrontation. Bell hovers in the air, channeling his training as blue energy and crystals swirl around him. Bell unleashes a surge of overwhelming blue energy, revealing his hidden strength. A fierce, winged figure is startled as they suddenly sense powerful magic surging from their right hand. With a single, blazing punch filled with all his strength, one fighter strikes his opponent head-on. Two figures are suddenly engulfed by a powerful burst of flames, both reacting in alarm as the attack strikes. A surge of fiery and icy energy erupts as the protagonist unleashes his trump card. A fierce combatant unleashes a glowing, explosive attack that surges toward a shadowy opponent. A terrified character screams in panic. A powerful blue attack breaks through the dragon's scales, leaving the armored opponent in shock. Stunned and sweating, the overconfident fighter realizes they have been defeated by their young opponent. Rocks explode violently, sending debris flying through the sky. A scarred figure glares forward with unwavering determination, preparing for the next move. In the quiet moonlit forest, the character stands alone, deep in thought. The three cloaked youths use their magic to imprison two opponents in massive blocks of ice. Bell notices that someone has regained consciousness much quicker than expected while standing with two others in the forest. The captured figure glares at the captor, daring them to act now that the tables have turned. A character pauses while playing the harp and prepares to speak. A determined character refuses to be manipulated and stands ready with two decorated weapons. A character with purple hair and facial markings stands alone in the dim forest, deep in silent thought. One character pledges obedience as the group faces the person trapped inside the crystal prison. The two stand face to face in silence, tension rising as one grips a glowing staff while the other watches warily. A curious young man extends his hand, summoning glowing magical energy in the forest. Two figures are trapped inside glowing ice as mist swirls around them. A furious girl delivers a final warning and demands not to be seen again. The horned, armored character steps forward through the misty forest, ready to begin the mission. Three students silently watch as two mysterious figures, one winged, disappear into the foggy forest. A blonde girl collapses from exhaustion on the forest ground while two boys in school uniforms watch her. Two students catch their breath in the forest, reflecting on their narrow victory over the student council president. A pink-haired student urgently bows and calls out to two startled academy students in the moonlit forest. A blonde character stands in a glowing forest and expresses heartfelt gratitude, promising to repay the kindness received. One of the cloaked figures reassures the others of their friendship as they stand together in the sunlit forest clearing. With a beaming smile, the cheerful character loudly celebrates their close friendship in the forest. Bell stands in the forest, catching his breath after a recent battle and preparing to move forward. After defeating Evil Lane, the group realizes they will likely become targets for the remaining student council members. The protagonist resolves to become stronger in order to defeat his opponents. One figure looms menacingly over another, who stands tense and ready with a sword drawn. A character considers the possibility that someone might be Syra's enemy. Determined to prevent further tragedy, he stands over the fallen figure and steels himself for action. A determined boy sits on a throne, vowing to become the strongest at the academy. Fueled by dark energy, the boy declares his plan to defeat Jean and claim leadership of the family. Belle stands firm, determined to protect Syra no matter what. Several years pass, and two figures stand beneath a turbulent sky crackling with blue energy. In a glowing cavern, two figures face off with tense, determined stances, preparing for a confrontation. Belle stands firm, his glowing blue eyes locked forward as lightning crackles behind him. He claims leadership of the family, gripping a glowing sword as energy crackles around him. A mysterious figure with long black hair and red eyes makes a menacing entrance as storm clouds and lightning gather overhead. A mysterious figure raises a glowing staff and pronounces a curse upon their younger brother. Haunted by memories of failing to protect loved ones, he steels himself with newfound resolve. Kneeling on the blood-stained floor, Belle reels in shock and anguish at the sight of the gravely injured body. A lone figure steps forward to confront the ominous vortex crackling with blue energy. With fierce determination, the protagonist declares he can overcome any enemy because he has endured pain. Belle charges forward with his glowing sword, determined to change the outcome. Belle charges forward, swinging his glowing scythe with fierce determination. A determined fighter dives from above with a glowing sword, clashing midair against an opponent wielding a sinister scythe. With unwavering resolve, Belle declares his determination to change the situation. The two opponents clash weapons, unleashing a surge of energy as their attacks collide.